I was a ghost for 17 years, just a footnote in some old book. Then, the universe got bored and spat me back onto the pavement. 17 years rotting in a pitch-black pit, no light, no sound, and not a single soul to touch. I see a girl on a poster and my chest tightens. Whole lifetime just vanished. Everything broke when that cosmic scar tore through the sky. Hell poured out of that rift. As the world's heavy hitter, I dragged 7 elite killers into the meat grinder to plug the leak. We hit the heart of that nightmare, but then the whole ceiling gave way, nearly burying us with those freaks. I stayed behind, a split-second choice that changed everything. One man holding the line against 100,000 screaming demons. That final stand was the only thing that kept humanity from being erased. The 7 lucky bastards who made it out alive were crowned as living gods by the survivors. Since I was dead, they turned my legacy into a myth. 17 years evaporated while I was busy staring into the void. With the monsters gone, heroes became nothing more than glorified gladiators fighting for TV ratings and bragging rights. But the nation that birthed us, this cradle of legends, has become the laughingstock of the professional league. The fans are screaming for blood while coach Baek Ji-ho, a kid I basically raised, looks like he is on the verge of a total meltdown. 3 crushing defeats in a row. Honestly, if I were sitting in the bleachers, I would be chucking garbage in him too. Aside from Bahan, the whole roster is pure trash. Is this really all that remains of our legacy? Staring at these soft new recruits makes Ji-ho feel empty inside. These kids have no backbone, and even less grit. He is ready to call it quits and walk away. He can T-beer to watch his name go down in flames with this dumpster fire. That is when the president calls. He expects to be fired, but the voice on the line makes his blood run cold. Right above the park where they put up a statue of me, the sky begins to crack like fragile glass. I tumble out of the sky, hitting the concrete like a falling star right at the feet of my own monument. It is me, Seo Mun Yeop, the ghost who finally decided to come home. I open my eyes and watch the entire world lose its mind. I actually made it. Waking up in a cold hospital bed and hearing that nearly 2 decades have passed is a total psychological trip. It felt like 2 days in that hole. How did the world get so old? Then the real blow hits me. My bank accounts are empty, my cars are gone, and my house is a memory. Everyone assumed I was fertilizer. My 50 billion won in savings gone, drained into some charity fund for orphans. My old place is a tourist attraction now. I am still in my prime, even though the calendar says I am 47. I guess that cosmic void worked like some high-tech fountain of youth. The media is outside circling like vultures. The second the nurse looks away, I start checking under my own hood. With a blink, I trigger the analysis eye. That glowing heads-up display is the reason I was the baddest man on the planet. I can read every stat, sniff out every flaw, and see exactly how much hidden power someone is packing. The cheat code made me a god 17 years ago. It is also how I discovered a scrawny kid with real grit. That scrawny kid was Baek Ji-ho, the man the world now worships as one of the legendary 7. I check my own numbers and nearly gag. My willpower is pinned at 110, and I have got a strange new ability. I am literally incapable of dying from physical trauma. Maybe that final blast in the pit rewired my whole system. A sharp knock cuts through my thoughts. Yep, are you really in there? I smirk at the soft gray man in the doorway. You let yourself go, Ji-ho. We head out to the roof. He breaks it down for me. He is the head coach for the national team, trying to turn these soft kids into actual killers. Apparently, the entire world is now obsessed with a high-stakes blood sport called warfare. It is essentially virtual reality combat where countries settle their political scores in a digital hellscape. Once the real monsters were wiped out, they needed a new way to weaponize that energy, a game with everything on the line. I watch the replays and can't help but yawn. To me, it looks like a bunch of toddlers playing a pathetic game of tag. I play along and ask him where our flag ranks in the global standings for this little hobby. Ji-ho starts sweating bullets and stares at his shoes. My patience wears thin. I asked you a question, are you deaf? We used to be the kings of the mountain. We should be running the show. Ji-ho just flinches like a kicked dog. We're dead last, he mumbles. On the way out, I catch a glimpse of a gorgeous woman on a massive screen. Yeah, I'm home. Ji-ho notices my look. That is my daughter. Yep, right, 17 years, man, life moves fast. Ji-ho's nose was buried in that warfare garbage the whole walk back, ignoring our country's downward spiral. He gives a damn. It looked like another pricey toy for trust fund brats with too much cash. I gave him a nod for not calling the cops before tagging along to his apartment. Stepping inside felt like a gut punch, the suffocating, sickly sweet smell of a perfect suburb. I was a relic of actual bloodshed standing in a room obsessed with expensive, digital delusions. Ours bled together as I binged 17 years of trashy sitcoms and sensationalized cable news. Ji-ho started folding. Reporters were circling his porch like starving dogs, sensing a fresh kill. I eventually tossed the leeches a scrap of info, just to get some peace and quiet. 24 hours later, the place crawled with bottom feeders waiting for the loser to finally self-destruct. My only real talent is my ability to manufacture absolute, unadulterated chaos. I held their gaze until some hairless guy found his balls and asked about my future. I cut him off when he questioned my courage. I mocked his vanishing hairline. The entire place erupted into pure unbridled madness. I'd almost made it out when some guy in glasses barked one final, pathetic question. He mentioned some arrogant punk named Gerald who was trashing my generation for cheap clicks. I just stared. Who is this Gerald clown? Since when did this kid become a god? He named the new icons. Nathan, Roy, Daniel, the guys these kids are currently worshipping. Turns out this year-old kid is strictly average. Thinking about him made my head throb. If he isn't even elite, he needs to learn how to keep his mouth shut. I sort of bury him if he kept talking, and that footage blew up instantly. Gerald snapped and flew in, but since he could T-reach me, he bullied the locals. Jiho was practically bawling through the phone when he finally called me. He attempted to guilt-trip me for the mess, but I wasn't T-buying into his drama. I was deep into my show until a sharp, ugly realization froze me in place. I worried if Haein got caught in the crossfire, then she walked right through the door. News hit that her favorite uncle was back, and she burst in like a starstruck fan. She nearly tackled me, staring at her. I realized that little girl was long gone. She curled up next to me, acting childish, and asked if I was turning pro. She acted cool before descending into frantic pleas for me to return to the circuit. I pointed at TV, lying about conducting crucial research, which made her pout. She grumbled about how I used to spoil her. I just said she'd grown up. Since the pity party failed, she begged me to attend her formal combat trial. I'm a sucker for those sad eyes. Minutes later, we were standing at the association. Watching her enter the capsule, I saw how combat had been turned into a hobby. Just pixelated beasts and fake swords. I gave her a dead-eyed stare when she finished. I told her she did fine for a rookie. Then she dared me to beat her. I told her I'd down to play games, but she insisted I sit in the chair. She rubbed it in that I'd never proven my skills. I finally gave in. The staff buckled me into the rig so I could see what the hype was, that the machine hummed, pulling me into a void that felt like the old death pits. I ordered the technician to max out the difficulty level. He did it immediately. A one-eyed Sarban appeared, the so-called ultimate king of their pathetic make-believe world. The operator told Haein the real bet was if I'd even survived 5 seconds. The beast lunged like a train. I tossed the fake sword. It was total junk. I lifted a single finger and snapped the air, blowing the entire simulation to hell. Gone. 1 second that freak was there. The next he'd blinked out, leaving my team and my niece staring at empty air. Haein knew I had a few tricks, but that performance was on another level. I played it cool, offering a casual shrug. I signaled for another round, itching to verify a hunch. Within seconds, a fresh nightmare materialized out of thin pixels. A voice suddenly sliced through the static, sharp as a razor. The apex predator. A man like you shouldn't to waste time on lizards. I searched the shadows for the source, but the answer came in the form of emergency sirens wailing in bloody, rhythmic pulses. Breach. The perimeter was compromised. Someone was tearing their way into our secure zone from the outside world. A massive armored figure burst into the chamber. You were practically begging for a beatdown. He snarled it was Gerald, my bait. I let him drone on without a single word of protest. Nothing rattles a guy like that more than icy, bottomless silence. He swung a heavy axe blurred toward my neck, but it only managed to bite into a passing shadow. He stumbled, his eyes darting around in total confusion. I leaned close, my voice a ghostly whisper. Did you honestly think I was running? I've been dying for a real challenge, and now you restuck. Haein and the rest of the crew just watched, lost in the fog. Why would a high-ranking outsider risk an all-out international incident just to infiltrate a private simulation? The math was simple. President Lim was pulling the strings, and Jiho was nothing more than his faithful lapdog. They were trying to lure me into their petty little conflict, but I'd already predicted every single move Gerald would make. I needed to peek under the hood, so I activated my tactical overlay to dissect the raw code. The guy was a literal fortress. Every attribute aside from agility was pushing 80%. His strength and resolve were pegged at 100. He was a human tank. If I'd crossed paths with him 17 years ago, he would have been the first pick for my elite squad. My thoughts drifted back to that strange power that first stirred while I was wasting away in a hospital bed. I'd planned to test it on some low-tier digital scrap, but this guy, he was a much more durable heavy bag. I tightened my grip and lunged. Gerald's confident smirk vanished the moment he realized he'd completely misread the situation. I didn't bother dodging. I just stood my ground and flashed a cold, sharp smile that must have chilled his blood. Welcome to the big leagues, I murmured. The impact of his blade sent me crashing through the floorboards. Up in the control booth, the room went silent. No one knew if it was a show or a funeral. Even Gerald looked rattled. I didn't budge. I'd absorbed the full force of the blow. Then, from the wreckage, I released a low crackle of static. Fear rooted him to the spot. I stepped out from the debris cloud without so much as a scratch on my clothes. This was a new trick I'd brought back from the abyss. I call it the Undying. It provides a total physical barrier and near instant recovery. I watched his hands start to tremble. Seems to work well. He was cracking. How do you fight something that refuses to break? I'd seen enough, so I ordered the system to disable the exploit. He's a decent combatant. I didn't want him throwing in the towel because of some psychological warfare. With the safeguards down, I stepped forward. No more excuses. Give me everything you've got this time. He kicked a blade my way. You're every bit as cocky as the stories say. I just shook my head. The rumors don't even scratch the surface. You can handle those 3 freaks, yet you think you're a match for me. That's either extreme bravery or a death wish. That was the final blow to his ego. He charged with every ounce of his power. I brushed his blade aside like an annoying fly and simply vanished. While he was spinning around searching for a ghost, I was already positioned right behind him. A backhand caught him square in the jaw. His survival instincts took over, and he scrambled back, gasping for air. The novelty was wearing off. I channeled every remaining drop of energy into my spear. I let it fly. The spear tore through the air with a supersonic shriek. He ducked, but the shockwaves sent him tumbling. I looked down at him as he struggled to find his feet and gave a faint grin. Match over. I win. He screamed that I'd missed, that he was still in the fight. I just chuckled. I only missed because I chose to. Consider it a favor. Quit whining. You'll never survive a real scrap with that massive shield anyway. He stared at me, bewildered. I started coaching him right there in the dirt. Ditch the dead weight. Get a smaller buckler so you can actually track your opponent. You have the speed for it. It fits your natural flow much better. He looked at me like I was pure venom, trying to get inside my head. I laughed. Please, I could hand you my entire playbook, and you still wouldn't land a hit. Outside the sim, Jiho was having a total meltdown. I've always had a knack for making life difficult, haven't I? I figured Gerald was just Ignat, but he ended up nuking my whole world. The bell rang and I shot that punk a look so he knew his debt was due. He tried to bargain for a 14-day bloodbath. I shut that down immediately. The guy was a shark, promising a blank check if I just play ball. He was signing his life away while the chaos outside mirrored my sinking gut. Then Jinna got that hungry, shark-like grin, the kind that promises a funeral. In a heartbeat, Jinna fed our secrets to every bottom-feeding reporter in the city. He told the world if our squad slipped up, I'd be the one bleeding in the cage. I was home trying to breathe when I saw my own life being sold on the news. I felt sick. If we weren't T-brothers, I'd have burned his entire legacy to the ground. Jint played the martyr, putting on a hell of a show about having no choice. He cried about the pressure, but swore the wager only mattered if we won it all. One loss, one single failure, and he promised I'd be ghosting the whole deal. I bit my tongue for old times, but I laid down the law one last time. One mistake and I'm out. All the money in the world couldn't buy me back. He signed off on it, ignoring that our guys usually choke when the lights get bright. The numbers were clear. This was a high-speed train wreck waiting to happen. I tried to disappear, but my face was on every screen, pushing me to the edge. I stepped out for air and found Hay in training, her father circling her like a hawk. He was screaming about footwork, convinced she was born to be a sidekick for the stars. Watching from the dark, I saw his training methods were nothing but pure, unrefined garbage. I turned on my scanners to look past the fatigue and see her true potential. Her speed had hit a wall, but her raw explosive power was leagues beyond her father. He was trying to forge a copy, blind to the human weapon standing right there. Keeping her on the sidelines was a crime, so I finally stepped out of the dark. I knew if she stayed our secret weapon, we would even land a punch today. I interrupted and told her to drop the cardio. Her old man snapped, demanding more. I looked him dead in the eye and said he was just reliving his failures through her. I told the girl to stop playing fetch for a pack that couldn't hunt a thing. You're not here to pass the torch, I said. You're here to burn the house down. Why lean on losers when we can just break bones? You need to hit the heavy iron. I grabbed a blade to show her, coiling before throwing a strike that nearly split the air. The heavy bag tore like thin paper, leaving them both standing there in total silence. From this moment on, I said, you aren't backup, you're the one leading the massacre. I forged her for 14 days while Gerald traded his tower shield for a buckler. The shift was instant. Without that weight, his inner monster finally came out to play. His coach was stunned, swearing he'd be dropping world-class heavyweights within 30 days. Gerald had one question. What was the actual street price for the moves I'd shared? $10 million, the manager guessed, plus a massive contract hike coming next year. Gerald saw me on the screen and told his team to wire $10 million to my account. He called it a consulting fee. I didn't think the lug had that much class. Time is up. The stadium became a powder keg as both teams walked out for the kill. I hid in the shadows, hard hammering, waiting to see if Han was ready for war. They chose a dark, ancient tomb, the crumbling remains of the Maltaburni Palace. It's a 3-story nightmare house, with a dead king waiting to butcher any trespassers. Level 2 is a graveyard guarded by steel, while a bone dragon claims the top. Here, it is murder or deletion. Killing monsters or players keeps us funded. Piling up corpses is the sole route to that final prize. We strap into our machines. Phase 1 begins. Both teams sprint toward the middle from their respective bases. Gerald's crew from Nation D operates with the cold, robotic efficiency of a team of professional assassins. They ditch mobility for heavy armor plating. On the other hand, Nation thrives in absolute, glorious chaos. We ignore the low-level mobs entirely, rushing toward the shadows in the heart of the boss lair. Seeing his team walk into a slaughterhouse, Jiho whispers a prayer. He is the one who ordered this death march. This is a total suicide mission, but winning now secures a lead that nobody can ever hope to bridge. Drop in the commander freezes the map. Han's sword slices the Bone King's neck in the blink of an eye. The arena erupts, yet rival trackers have already tagged us. Gerald receives the intel within 2 seconds. He stops his forward push immediately, commanding every soldier to swarm our spot and delete us. However, Gerald is a sluggish heavy. He barks at a subordinate, forcing them to use a speed boost to engage. Just as Han swings for a lethal blow, Gerald flies through the air like a fired artillery round. He crashes into Hay in mid-jump, a hit so brutal she is erased from the game world on the spot. Jiho watches the monitor stunned. He sees that Gerald was actually catapulted by his own partner's special ability. Lacking our star player, We are sitting ducks. The slaughter concludes before I can even take a single breath. Hey, an Exeter simulator, eyes vacant, even with top-tier coaching. We were still just a bunch of hopeless rookies. The entrance flies open as Seaman's icy voice rings out. He is tired of watching this embarrassing display of failure. He is taking control now, engineering a strategy designed specifically to put Gerald in early digital grave. Round 2 starts now. Nation D divides into 2 separate, high-precision assault teams. 6 trackers secure the prime loot spots while Gerald's hitters go hunting for heads. Nation A burns the strategy guide, abandoning all defense to rush ahead as one frantic, unified tide. The casters are confused. Have we snapped? Why choose a death wish tactic at this precise moment? In the dark, CM simply grins. Excellent, follow the lead and the crack in their defense will appear. Sami's greatest work is the Phantom Blow. He perfected this virtual terror during his prime years. The castle seems like a direct path, but an overlooked sewer line sits beneath the main level. It is a hidden corridor meant for backstabbing. Hardly anyone even recalls where the entrance is hidden now. If the game logic holds, the gate is open. Seaman's commands are the only rules we obey. After reaching the cellar, we ambush both units simultaneously. We are going to shatter Gerald's momentum for good. He switched to a light buckler, ruining his guard and leaving his team's protection completely worthless. He found his flow with the fresh equipment, yet we must finish him before he gets comfortable. Nation D fears losing their star players. With that pressure, a 2-pronged attack will break them apart. Seaman knows Gerald will crumble inside the sim. The rival trackers are spiraling because we have gone off grid. As Hayen's team creeps through the darkness, the stone behind an oblivious Gerald suddenly crumbles into nothing. 11 of us pour through the ruins at once, catching them with their shields totally lowered. Gerald panics, raising his guard. But he is not the target. We are coming for his support staff instead. He takes out 3 of our guys, but his whole medical squad is wiped out during the chaos. 3 remaining players versus 8 assassins is a burial. Hayen smells his terror and lunges without delay. Eventually, only a battered, bleeding Gerald is left. He realizes only one mind could coordinate such a strike. When the giant finally drops, the stadium erupts. Nobody thought we could actually achieve the impossible tonight. We just deleted 5 pros. Jiho watches and Adele Seaman remains perfectly still and indifferent. I promised you she would deliver the final blow. The absolute ruin of Nation D is finally a reality. Slaying 5 professional players is a complete miracle. Despite the tight score, it is a devastating mental blow. Our losing streak is dead at last, all because of the cold brilliance inside Seo Mun Yeop's head. Inside 5 minutes, the footage reaches 10 million views. The entire planet just saw a legend fall. Lim cornered me this morning, wondering if I was finally done playing the hermit. I gave him a cold stare. Deal is off. Lim, get out. He just gave a sleazy laugh and mentioned the big leagues. Apparently, there is some high-stakes exhibition game lined up right before the season kicks off. He laid out his case, flinching like he expected me to shut him down mid-sentence. I am not usually the type to jump the gun, but I stunned us both by telling him maybe. The guy absolutely lost it, lunging at me for a pathetic excuse of a hug. I shoved him back, disgusted. I said I am thinking about it. I did not say I was for sale. He kept right on grinning, but that fake-ass smile made me wonder what his real angle was. A flash of guilt crossed his face. His classic giveaway. Right before he swore everything was above board. My rules were non-negotiable. I would only play on one condition. We turned back. We spotted Bake Jiho out in the yard, looking like a man who had been chewed up and spat out by life. My demand, Jiho joins the team. He just scoffed. I am 48. Kid, I hung it up 17 years ago. He was terrified of being a ghost. I just watched him. The man who used to move with divine grace. I made it my mission to fix him. While we talked, I took a quiet look at how badly his health had tanked. 17 years of doing nothing had hollowed him out. You have gone soft on me, old-timer. I joked. We start training tomorrow, I told him. Lim just sat there, probably counting his future millions. I told him being was part of the deal too. We get the whole squad, or I walk? Putting a broken legacy back together as a promoter's stream. Lim was on his phone in a heartbeat. I need a hand, he muttered. A week later, we rolled into the combat bureau. Routine stuff. I had to clear a full medical before they let me anywhere near the cage. They needed to sync my speed and power with their virtual testing ground. Just some basic drills, pull a handle, get a score. It was a complete joke. I gave it 3 goes, 813, 817, 819. Nothing special. Agility was next. I tore through the sensor field, relying on nothing but raw muscle memory. The screen hit 971. Every technician in the room turned into a statue. Real talk, the world record is 107. I was already in the elite bracket. Even then, I knew I had more in the tank. I locked in and sharpened my focus. Everything went quiet. I felt light as air as I shredded the course one more time. I was a blur crossing the finish line. Is that guy even real? Someone shouted. I clocked a 107, matching the record, and I was barely even trying. How did I tie that at 97% effort. I had to rethink what I was capable of. I centered myself and poured every ounce of my being into the lift. 890. That sensation, it was a familiar H I thought I had buried in the dirt forever. It was the same panic from that last bloody vault when I was the only one left standing. When you can stare into the dark without flinching, you can break every law of nature. That old trauma was fueling my muscles. Mystery solved. Time for the final check. The mental test, a glowing sphere that shows exactly what is happening inside your head. Spending decades alone made this part a breeze. I was more than ready. The second I touched the glass, the metrics went haywire and the ball turned a deep, bruised purple. The whole room went dead silent the moment my scores popped up on the monitor. 1030, I did not just set a record, I broke the entire sport. The press went into a frenzy. I was in the game. That is when the sharks started circling. Furman, the top parasite from overseas, showed up with a hungry look in his eyes. 15 years back, he tore our squad apart just to feed his corporate machine. He never could get his hooks into Jiho. Back then, we were the real deal. Not for sale. Furman's a shadow, but he's not slipping away tonight. Europe's best hitman's here. The Morrows are smelling blood already. They want Scene's head, but high heels clicking kills the noise. Shilin enters and freezing tension stops every lung in there. I'm watching from sidelines. Scene looks like he's seen death. 17 years back, her skills were a nightmare beyond reason. Raised in luxury, she carried herself like royalty beyond reach. But back then, Scene shredded her plays without blinking once. Her mere proximity sends a killing frost down his spine. Chaos is brewing. Jiho warns Scene to keep his focus tight. Scene smirks, saying we're the elites while others just watch. Suddenly, seeing Choi Hup makes Scene freeze mid-sentence. The kid's numbers suck, but his grit and lungs never quit. Potential hits 90. He's a wall if he learns some control. Scene snaps, furious that Hup thinks he's built for brawling. You've got a death wish or something? Kid, you're a tank wasting energy on offense. Get your head straight. Skinny doesn't mean striker. He's using his focus like a toy. Look at that. The newbie's second passive is active and screaming. Scene yells for silence, grab a shield and move out. Huck's frozen stiff, words dying in the back of his throat. Scene's gaze hardens, crowning the boy as their new iron shield. Huck's terrified, but the crowd wants blood. It's win or die. Scene hunts for threats and finds some blonde brat blowing bubbles. Shim Young-soo's gifted but gutless. Scene can't stand quitters like him. Soo doesn't give a damn about who Scene used to be. He's salty, thinking Scene's just some fossil with a big mouth. Smelling the arrogance, Scene asks the brat if he has issues. Soo mocks him, calling Scene an ancient fake who never played. I'll end you, Soo spits, but Scene just grins at that. Things are getting fun. Scene says, consider your career over today. Gerald's eyes are glued to the Asha caves, spinning. Hellish tunnels. 3 death zones linked to a shaft, plunging into total darkness. Beasts are everywhere, yet Jiho plots our route with cold accuracy. We blitz zone 51, then hammer through 52 without pausing once. Scene shreds the level 5 boss alone, sealing the entire area, but people are losing it, questioning if one guy can kill Sarban. It takes 3 pros, but Jiho keeps moving into zone 6. Legends aren't born easily. That beast was just a light stretch. They tear through enemies, driving the crowd into a total frenzy. A flawless reunion. The first sector was wiped out in seconds. That spider is a tank. Break its shell or you're dead. Scene's speed is terrifying, leaving even the old pros speechless. His 100-centimeter strike still keeps Shilin awake at night. Just a simple blow turned lethal by a man seeking vengeance. My steel flashes like a heat stroke, snapping home before the crack of sound. This relentless, high-speed dance of cold metal turns the beast's world into pure hell. Pulling this off is suicide, like trying to snatch a flying bullet from the air. One mistake ends it. Shilin just sighs, noting my ego has not aged a bit. While Jiho drones on about strategy, I have burned the plan and gone solo. Troy sees me peeking, leaving Jiho to choke on my massive pride. Chaos is my brand. He drags the others to mop up the Sector 2 garbage. Deep in the belly of Sector 3, I greet the boss with a killer grin. The freak howls and strikes, but I dodge its bulk without breaking a sweat. Reckless as always, I mutter as lightning starts dancing down my blade. Channeled stormlight floods my soul as I pour every ounce into one final strike. That blue steel carves into the serpent's throat, but the damn thing still breathes. By the time the squad arrives, the boss is a broken shell, barely twitching. I have run the numbers. Scoring elite kills here builds a permanent god tier status. I held back the killing blow so the kids could grab the rewards. Vaulting off the rotting heap, I spot Jan and a dark idea takes hold. With the Titan dead, I draft Jiho and Heian to hunt the trash talkers. Shim Wang-soo is busy farming mobs when a bolt nearly clips his nose. Steel nicks his cheek, drawing blood. He freezes, realizing they're being hunted like prey. The trap is shut. Troy has them pinned, killing any hope of an escape. My orders were clear the second you spot them. Do not let them breathe. Keep them occupied. Jiho and I are coming in hot. I am launching him. Try not to die, I shout, throwing Jiho and my sword into the fray. Shim Young-soo panics, thinking he is the mark, and rallies his crew for impact. But Jiho vanishes from sight, instantly ghosting through their lines like a wraith. Their muscle hits the dirt instantly. The whole squad turns to stop Jiho. Suddenly, Heian's whip grabs him, dragging him back to safety through the air. The moment her boots hit the ground, She is a blur at full tilt. That play took 2.5 seconds. I grin at them, your shield is gone. Curtain call outside the simulation. The stadium crowd is absolutely losing their minds. Bait the trap, drop the king, burn everything. That is how elites play. The announcers go silent as Shimyong realizes he is not even in my league. He is practically begging for mercy while Troy holds the line as ordered. It is his first time leading and the raw power he feels shocks him. But Troy starts to buckle against pros, then a white hot flash blinds everyone. One of those punks gets erased instantly. I walk into light, smiling easy. Pure art round 2. I let Jiho play the hero for the start, but for the final I will show every soul in the stands my power. Clock hits 0. Jiho starts barking orders, but I cut him off. Mine. Watch your backs. Jiho is stunned, but the gloves are finally coming off. He watches me vanish into the distance, praying I do not cause a disaster. I slam into the first wave of undead, carving a path without stopping. I waltz through the carnage, landing that 100-centimeter strike with precision. I have memorized every inch of this map, using the terrain to hunt. When the enemy finally spots me, they turn pale. Not even 10 minutes. How did he cut us off? That icy stare is piercing my soul. The nightmare has only just begun. Heinz screaming for us to pull back. That monster just smirks while we scatter like rats in a flooded tunnel. Since you're making this so easy, I'll take my time. He levels his spear, his glowing eyes stripping away every defense we have. Pure garbage. He barely whispers it, then his blade is airborne, skewering my teammate's spine from a mile away. One down, we're hauling ass. But he doesn't even look worried. There's no outrunning this guy. He's hunting every last one of us. We hit the basement and boom, he just appears. My brain just quits on me. Ian is barking at us to close the Japs and tighten up the formation. We can't let him land another blow, but there he is, sauntering into the room like some kind of dark god. Even the commentators have gone dead silent. He's peering into the abyss, timing exactly how fast we tried to vanish. Impact in 3, 2, 1. Let's see if my math held up on that throw. Pure energy surges through the weapon. He hurls it into the shadows like a predator striking from the clouds. The squad downstairs feels a sudden, freezing draft. Before anyone can shout, one of them is pinned to the wall. Ein is totally frozen, outside the simulation. The announcers have completely lost their minds. That is easily the most legendary kill in the history of the game. Just pure, calculated madness. With 2 guys gone, we start eating our own. Sue, whose nerves were already shot, the first to finally snap. He rails against the captain, calling him a spinless coward. Hyan tries to talk him down, but it's no use. We're already short-handed. A charge is suicide, but Sue has completely checked out of reality. Just toss a grenade and end it. Hyan tells him to stay cool, but Sue has hit his breaking point. He ignores the play and lets a blast rip. The fire screams through the corridor like a beast. Sue sneers, I knew you were hiding there. Hope you like being a pile of ash. But as the smoke parts, he walks out untouched. Idiot. He mutters, I wanted you to see me. Before Sue can even react, he lunges and vanishes. I watch Sue's world just shatter into a million pieces. His best move got swatted aside like a fly. In the pro leagues, no one had ever managed to block his explosives. That single talent was his whole career. The only reason he was the star of the national team. Ian sees an opening. He splits us to trap him, but the predator is already tracking our every move. His face is like stone. I wanted a strategy. This is honestly more pathetic than I imagined. Playtime is over. He dives into the thick of us. Every swing of that spear is a funeral. 5 kills. The whole arena goes quiet. A full wipe in minutes. This is exactly what a gaming DD looks like. Shalon is frozen at his monitor. He's really back. The king has returned to reclaim his throne. Jiho sees the news and rings him up. What's the play? We're coming to help. He just chuckles. Don't bother. I'll be done before you park. Time to cull the pack. Then he turns to face the final 6. They stare at him like he's the Reaper. Pure. Raw panic takes over. It's over before it starts. Ian orders a surround, but a pack of sheep is no match for a starving wolf. He just steamrolls them with pure, raw force. Sue can only watch in total silent horror. What kind of demon do we let loose? He watches him approach step by step as total despair sets in. The beating feels like it lasts a lifetime. When we finally unhook from the pods, the host is already there. She asks for tips for the national team. He just rubs his head. He has 0 notes for them. My advice, burn the whole program and start over. She asks if he'd ever consider coaching. He gives a crook smile, depends on the check. On the way out, Jiho asks if he was serious. He says maybe for the right price, then tells Jiho he needs to turn in his resignation. He tells him flat out he isn't a teacher. Jiho is gutted. 11 years together, and it meant nothing. He thought they were equals, but Kaza was already a world-class coach. Jiho felt like a total fraud. He feels like a complete failure. He asks if he could at least stay on as a technical coach instead. Same answer, pay me. He sighs, but since we go back, here's a freebie. First grab Choi Huck for your front line, and use Lai as the secret weapon for one-shot kills. That sudden velocity changed the entire game. First move, pull Hyan back to anchor the defense. Then the house cleaning started. I stripped that privileged brat, Sue, of his executive position. Jiho is not hesitating out of cowardice. He is just overwhelmed by the kid's elite-level stats. I scoffed, gifted hands mean nothing when your psyche is as fragile as glass. Toxic teammates are dead weight until you break them down completely. We talked until the city lights blurred. Post-match galas are mandatory, and as the star attraction, I was forced into the spotlight. The ballroom felt like a shark tank. Before I could breathe, Jack blocked my path. After some empty pleasantries and a business card, he vanished. Then those notorious twins crowded me. Rumors say they have gone clean, but I know they have blood on their hands from the underground. They are running illegal rings with Nathan's protection, circling me now like hungry predators. I cut to the chase, asking if they wanted to sign me. They flashed a synthetic smile. Recruiting the elite is always the goal, but we do not believe in forcing anyone's hand. It is Bane we are after. We want her. I could not help but let out a bitter laugh. Nice eye for talent, but is this just a desperate ploy to get to me? Absolutely not, they insisted. We decided the moment we saw her perform today. That is it. Though a jersey for you is always on the table, I just stared, sensing their ulterior motives. Perhaps that environment would actually let her flourish. I brushed them off, done with the sales talk. Hayan and I were escaping for some cards when a voice pulled me back into the mess. I groaned, exhausted. This has to be a joke. The man introduced himself as Secretary Yen. He mentioned the merit system. I froze, thinking that legend was nothing but a myth. Yang revealed it has been running for 17 years. They just assumed I would never return from the void. A massive lump sum of back pay was waiting. $2,568,000,000. As the event ended, Jitty confronted me. Fuming, you pushed those kids past their breaking point. Their spirits are crushed, I shrugged, knowing his poor oversight led to this inevitable disaster. That sounds like a management failure on your part. Inviting me was your first mistake. He finally stopped stalling and offered me the national team's technical coaching spot. The salary offer was astronomical, but I just gave him a knowing, icy smirk. My journey was different. With $16 billion in the bank, I was not joining a club, I was buying one. Walking back to my apartment, I spotted a figure lurking in the shadows of the alley. Shilin, a legendary hero, stood there. My blood ran cold. She was never one for games. I asked if this was about some ancient beef. My nerves felt like they were on fire. My analysis revealed her power level was off the charts, possessing a lethal new tracking ability. She had evolved into something unrecognizable. I stepped forward, asking if she wanted to fight. A small smile touched her lips. I am not that petty. I just needed proof you were alive. She vanished into the night before I could react. My partner and I stood there, stunned. It made no sense. Little did I know, she had fallen for me 17 years ago. I have always walked alone, resistant to romance. Back home, I began scouting potential club acquisitions. Seeing my resolve, Joe pledged to bankroll the entire operation if my funds ran dry. He suggested buying a Tier 1 organization. I stopped, confused by the terminology. He broke down the rankings. Tier 1 is professional, while Tier 7 is cheap and lacks talent. I settled on Tier 2. Even I cannot transform a group of failures into champions overnight. I asked Jenna for leads on struggling clubs. He pointed me toward the Hanjin organization. I scouted them undercover, and that is when I spotted a girl sitting alone on the bench. Nan was a complete unknown, yet her potential for growth was a perfect 100. She can teleport 20 meters in a heartbeat without blinking. I paid $5,100,000,000 for her. Everyone thinks I'm nuts, but I've designed the only path to drag these nobodies into the major leagues. Shadows bleed over the busted pavement as I enter my trashy gym. A sudden shout kills the quiet. Some guy tells me to beat it, right until he realizes I'm the one actually signing his paychecks. I pull him in with a jagged smirk, telling him to stop bellyaching and hustle for double pay. My lead, Dongjun, guides me through the hollowed-out rooms, tallying only 14 pathetic stragglers left on the roster. I run my hands over the corded metal, the gear's pure junk, but the human potential is gold. In the lounge, I corner a girl named Lina who looks like she's facing a firing squad. She's trembling while I talk, but I brush off her panic, swearing to make her the team superstar. With a ragged exhale, she confesses she spent her entire career rotting away on the sidelines. I don't even flinch at her insecurity, stating she's about to become a phantom nobody can touch on field. She figures I've lost my mind, but I caught the one thing everyone else missed, her terrifying natural velocity. Armed and sprinting at that clip, she'll be a backfield assassin, ripping victories right out of the enemy's hands. By the time they figure out they're the hunted, she'll be 5 miles down the road. She's the persistent itch they can never scratch. Way too lightning quick to ever be cornered or contained. Using her to shatter their line is just the opening gambit in my master scheme. The moment I bring up the national championships, the terror in her eyes suggests she's about to start screaming. I crush her excitement with a cold nod, shooing her out to make space for the next warm body. Next is a spindly kid in spectacles, though a mythic slayer is lurking behind that brittle frame. Jihan was a waste of space on defense, despite carrying combat metrics that hit 95 out of 100, dragging him into the spotlight. I make it clear his days of cowering behind a shield are officially over. He stares at me like I'm from another planet when I swap into offense, stammering about his duties. Blown away by the shift, he goes dead silent when I stake my reputation on him wielding blades. Uncertainty hits him hard as he gestures toward the garbage speed and power numbers flickering on the screen. I snap back, shouting that his metrics only tanked because he's been playing it safe for years. Listen, One trick ponies don't win titles. You need a versatile arsenal that you're currently lacking. Since he's just acting like a brainless tank, I'm shoving a blade into his hand to ignite his fire. My fuse blows when he asks if he's just some cut-rate bench warmer with a knife. I roar at the ceiling, wondering if I've inherited a literal circus full of morons. Be a warrior or go broke. There's zero room for soft-bellied cowards on my payroll. It's a simple call, gamble on yourself and flip the script, or decay in the shadows as a nobody. After a heavy silence, he grips my hand with newfound aggression, vowing to dominate the front lines. Ordering the coach to hunt down a master fencer, I tell him to drill them until they puke. Dongjun looks skeptical, but I tell him to bank on the pro before heading home to scheme. I can't even focus on the television while my mind races at 100 miles per hour. Worrying Ji-ho. The instant he brings up our underdog squad, a brilliant and deadly brainstorm finally hits my brain. Seeing the reporters outside, I realize those vultures aren't a nuisance. They're my new PR department. This is too much free publicity to pass up, so I charge out the front door to confront the media. I play the crowd, acting friendly while promising them the story of the century in exchange for a favor. I tell them to broadcast the message. I'm recruiting, and I only want the cast-offs and the forgotten. The pile of applications flooding in is pure trash. I'm about 5 seconds from torching the whole stack. I keep sifting through the garbage until one file makes my heart stop. A low-rank courier with a secret. While his numbers look pathetic, he has a bizarre combo of gear distorting and shared sight that shouldn't exist. A dragging Sun Ho-in, my coach stares at his stats like they're written in some ancient, dead tongue. He simply can't wrap his head around why I'd ever let such a bottom-tier candidate through the doors. I check his vitals and freeze. This kid possesses 3 god-tier abilities, including the legendary dash. That kid was sitting on a gold mine and did not even realize it was in his pocket. He was a walking tactical nuke without a manual. I sized him up against her. He just stared. I tuned out the chaos and gave the courier my best shark smile. Fate usually hands you a winning hand when you are scraping the bottom of the barrel. Look, your stats are pocket change. You really think you can run with the big dogs? His fists clenched, blood draining from his hands as he spoke with chilling conviction. My resume looks like a train wreck, but this is my shot. No more playing it safe. I felt a spark of admiration. I asked how he navigated those massive, empty gaps. He said he senses the rhythm of a heart. My chest tightened. We had our silver bullet. This is not warehouse work. It is tactical scouting. You are worth way more than some spreadsheet. Every assassin needs eyes. You and the girl are going to burn this whole league down. You two are the foundation. Let us give them a masterclass in the art of the ambush. 8 weeks of pure torture later, I had turned those shouts into the deadliest pair alive. Judgment Day arrived, the moment where every desperate but gets settled in the mud. On my cue, she became a ghost, tearing through the field like a blade through silk. While she danced with death, the boy stayed low, feeding her gear out of thin air. With that marksman overhead, the slaughter was invisible to the naked eye. Pure, dark art. I nearly doubled over laughing. The rival's wife looked like she was watching her own funeral. You orchestrated this. Can't you show my husband some mercy? Her whining really grated on me. I warned him months ago to walk away, but his ego was a suicide note. The commentators were losing their minds. She was pinned down with 0 exits left. The boy whispered the solution. In a flash, she slipped through their fingers like a shadow. This is taking years off my life. Someone put a leash on that tiny monster. The opposition cracked, abandoning the objective to hunt her like a pack of rabid dogs. They thought they had her trapped. She just gave them that look. The look of a grave digger. Suddenly a wall went up from nowhere. The whole squad was there. The audio cut out. A heavy transport dropped the entire hammer right on the back of their necks. They chased a phantom while we built an army. This was not a match, it was an execution. 9-0 total annihilation. My two nobodies were the new gods of the arena. Through the deafening roar, she found my eyes. I promised her the crown, and I delivered. I gave her the signal, blood pumping. I was not letting this fire burn out yet. We ran the play again. Total eclipse. The world finally learned what fear feels like. Our first cup, and those 2 kids were the only thing the news cared about. The web exploded. Only a madman could turn 2 rejects into living icons. A few days later, the old guard came knocking. You really scouted these kids yourself? He asked if they would go pro. I told him to stop playing and sign the heavyweight instead. Why is he benched? He just exhaled, looking broken. The man had signed for the defense. But his handler is a parasite. If you cannot cover the check, get out of my way. 5 wins in a row. My coach was vibrating, acting like the gold was already ours. I had to ground him. That kind of arrogance is a death sentence. We were just beginning. I told him I only wanted a 50% win rate. He stared at me like I was insane. This crew had never even hit 31%. He thought I was joking. But my boss knew. 50% felt like a miracle. But the chief never wasted a second on small talk. I might look like a gambler, but every move I make is a silent knife to the jugular. Now, it was time for them to show they were worth the price I paid in blood. Win 50% of your matches or the funding goes cold. He barks, vanishing as the audience erupts. Decay hides beneath the surface. Their entire strategy is just a flimsy house of cards waiting to collapse. If a competitor gets a whiff of Songo, we are finished. Staying afloat requires massive stacks of cash. Winners get the glory, but nobody bets on a long shot. Just as things look bleak, Jiho pings me. Scur the junior ranks, the elite are gone, but there are still stone-cold predators lurking in the shadows. My heart rate enters triple digits. Buckle up, kids. I am coming for every one of you now. Using Jiho's secrets, I start raiding every campus. The situation on the ground is a total train wreck. Even the 70-point nobodies are signed. I am heading out when a straggler bursts into the gym. He looks like just another face in the crowd. Then we lock eyes and the world stops spinning. Byum's stats are garbage, but he possesses the phantom walk. That is the calling card of a true ghost. Without my eye for greatness, he would stay invisible. I decide to sign his contract right then and there. The boy is trembling. I am nobody. Why bet on a slow, weak loser with only one trick? I glare at him, shattering his resolve. Are you seriously questioning my ability to spot a future legend? I crafted Yeon and Sango. Jihen was a bottom-tier joke before I broke him down and rebuilt him. Doubt still has him frozen. I tell him strength mirrors the spirit, and spirits are meant to evolve. Give me 3 years. If you quit then, I will hand you $300 million personally. That figure silences him instantly. He starts stuttering about needing his mother's permission before he can sign. I grab his wrist, ask for what we go over, and his mom signs the deal immediately. With one name on the team, I hit the streets again with pure fire burning in my veins. But the world is a graveyard. Corporate predators have already stripped every school down to the bone. Night falls and I am at the last school, fuming. Then I see a kid with godlike potential, but he is frigid. He claims fighting is just a minor hobby he has no intention of taking seriously. He wants to be a writer. Inspiring hope, my fuse has finally burned down to the very end. His prose gives me leverage. I tell Jang Min I'm the icon who rescued the world 17 years ago. My journey isn't just data, it is a dark, violent masterpiece that is waiting for a writer's pen. I trade him the dungeon's darkest secrets for his novel, but only if he plays for my squad. That is the bait. He signs the dotted line before I even finish my pitch to him. My roster is finally starting to feel like a blade. As I leave, Chu Jong shouts after me. He can find a single weakness in me. He reads prose like books, but I am a total void. Why run a tiny club when you could reign like a god? I cut his words short. I donate waste time crushing ants. I'm already a living legend walking among you. Hearing Hugh was rejected by the national team sends me to Twin Star Club by 2 in the afternoon. Security tries to block me, so I give them a 5-second masterclass in sheer violence right there. I stride through the lobby, eyeing the polished marble towers of the corporate power players. Greed is a hell of a high. These vultures practice in absolute, high-tech and chrome-plated luxury. My boys hike 500 meters every single day. Then the manager tries to stand in my way. He knows I'm a ticking bomb, so he hides behind a wall of polite and professional corporate jargon. I'm not here for small talk. Why the hell is Hugh banned from the national team's roster? He starts dripping sweat. Apparently, Coach Moon-won-T let Hugh play any position except for a meat shield. He flashes a plastic smile, saying it's handled. I shove past him to hunt down the coach. The moment Moonong sees me, his stomach sinks and he cannot even hold my gaze. I am genuinely puzzled. Do I know you? You look like a ghost from my previous life. He panics and denies it, but memories of 1993 at the Spirit Temple come rushing back. That famous 200-man siege. I was the 18-year-old prodigy leading the entire front line. Moonong was 24 then, hiding behind his age to ignore every order I barked out. After that 9-hour hell he put me through, I almost put him in the dirt. He turned ghost white the second his past finally caught up to him. Hide behind that beard all you want, Chew. Your eyes still reek of fear. He flashed a shaky smile, hoping I'd forgotten. Fat chance. I remember everything. Nothing personal, pal, but your latest blunder is going to cost you a fortune. Hand over Choi Huck right now, or I'll bury your name in the headlines. The coach was trapped. That pathetic excuse for a deal was a total insult. You're loaded, Chew. Why be a cheapskate when your neck is on the block? Is a job worth a coffin? Breath is starting to cost you a premium. One glance sent him spiraling. He cut $200 million off the top. A quick chat was all I needed to snag Choi Huck for $50 million. I made it a point to be there personally when the kid showed up. When I said, "Welcome home," he looked at me like I was a savior. The kid honestly thinks that with me in charge, we're taking over the world. Still, there was this massive hole in our roster I just couldn't overlook. With only 18 guys, we couldn't even pull off a decent practice scrimmage. B was picking up the lingo, making me believe Country B was our play. She caught a break there and begged me to follow. I eventually caved. New blood and a secret edge. Fine, let's see what Country B is hiding. 5 global slots remain. It's time to assemble a squad that actually counts. We touched down and the Bald brothers turned our arrival into a media frenzy. Lenses were everywhere. They were just leeching off my name to build their brand. I felt like an am, but the true horror show hadn't even started yet. They plastered me in logos until my very pulse felt like a paid advertisement. If it weren't for that boy, I likely would have burned that building down. B crushed the Triads and signed a $4 million contract. She's golden. That's pocket change in my world, but for her, it's the big break. I stayed silent, offering nothing but a sharp nod to show I approved. When Nathan, a real heavy hitter, walked in, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. I was itching for a scrap, but his eerie politeness felt like a setup. Intel said he was perfect and could duplicate himself. The guy's a deity. He's a straight-up killing machine. No wonder Joel got folded so quickly. The rumors were true. Some guys are just engineered to win every time. He was dying for a fight but lacked the spine to move first. B was wide-eyed, so I told her to avoid men that lethal. She admitted she liked the dangerous ones, then looked at me with total devotion. Her mother saw it, that instant of pure dread when she realized the truth. She views me as a predator. Fine, I had a custom spear to fetch. A collapsible staff that shifts into a tech blade. It's a total death machine. I'm hard to wow, but this piece of kit was actually damn impressive. They handed over 5, and since the doors are locked, these are all. Grabbing them felt like a robbery until they hit me with the real kicker. They planned to push millions of knockoffs using my name. They were bleeding me. I'm a walking billboard now. I growled, but they told me to chill out. It ain't a gift. It's $1.5 million annually just for my face. $3 million was the bait, and I swallowed it whole before feeling the wire choke me. I inked that contract with a grin, blissfully unaware of the death warrant buried in the fine print. Then reality hit like a freight train. Clause 2, I am now legally forbidden from ever disarming. They claimed that without a professional license, my blade was nothing but a massive security liability. To dodge a total legal execution, I was forced into registering as a pro athlete immediately. Checkmated. Those two vipers had rigged the entire game long before I even stepped into the room. They witnessed my fury and insisted the league membership was merely a dull administrative formality. Their lips spoke of liberty, yet I only felt the crushing gravity of their massive deception. The scenery stayed the same, but their betrayal tasted like cold, jagged iron on my tongue. Hayen was beaming. Big news. You are finally a legitimate, fully sponsored professional athlete. She pleaded for me to join her unit so we could shed blood together on the front. Nathan loomed over, desperate to witness how my equipment would hold up in tomorrow's fire. His bloodlust was practically audible. I merely mirrored him with a sharp, predatory smile. Your eagerness is showing. Rookie, fine. Be on the training grounds at daybreak. Walking into the gym with Hayen the following morning, the room went dead silent at my arrival. Out of nowhere, a massive slab of muscle blocked the sunlight and my way forward. I braced for a collision, but the behemoth just grinned and started pleading for my signature. Kichi Lucasta, their star powerhouse, was behaving like a starstruck teen, visibly trembling with excitement. He vowed to safeguard Hayen, so I activated my tactical scanners to read his true essence. His stats were legendary, nearly all 90s, coupled with 3 extremely dangerous, innate abilities. Nathan takes the spotlight, but this giant is the real foundation, equal to any top-tier fighter. I studied his final ability, puzzled how Professional Slayer possessed such a bizarre trait. Is he some secret environmentalist? Nathan approached to clear up the confusion for me. Apparently, he manages a woodland foundation. Nathan looked like he had just won the lottery. He seemed uncharacteristically timid. My ultimate goal is finally within reach, he admitted. For these rookies, I am a phantom. The ultimate barrier they are dying to demolish. I went off-grid 17 years back. My former comrades are either buried or forgotten. Yet, the public never quit debating who truly reigns supreme as the master of the blade. Nathan was the last contender, but being second best was a toxin eating him alive. He had spent decades pursuing a memory, and now he finally could destroy it for good. A Coach Cobbin entered, and his sheer gravity turned the chaotic gym into a quiet house of worship. With a single gesture, he changed everything. Nathan and I were now opposing team captains. Teams were chosen via a coin flip, and we immediately armored up for battle. We entered the simulation, desolate, exposed wasteland offering no protection and no pity. Strategy was irrelevant. They just wanted to see a legend crash into the rising prodigy. That works. Let us discover if the boy can survive a brush with greatness. The screen labeled it a group match, but we both understood this was a personal vendetta. The space emptied. Nathan became a streak of light, his dual swords aiming for my throat. However, I was forged in a far deadier era. My weaponry flowed like molten lava. I deflected every fatal blow, rendering his fierce momentum into nothing but empty noise. Retreating slightly, he charged once more, frantic to bypass my guard and keep close. He fished for a blunder, but I remained motionless, frozen intent and completely unfazed. Every opening he perceived was merely a trap I had set for his own destruction. Following 300 cycles of dominance, I advanced, making my polearm feel impossibly heavy. Had he lacked lightning reflexes, my initial serious blow would have permanently shattered his pride. The executive suit feels like a meat locker. Simon Vance crowds my space, his presence vibrating through the mahogany table. One wrong word and my grandfather's empire vanishes. By noon, bringing up the Cayman Holdings is suicide. He would tie me up in court for a century. I am pinned, gasping as his shadow swallows the room. He holds the leash with sadistic precision. Every deal I pitch just adds another nail to the coffin he is building for me. He is a predator in a $5,000 suit. Zero empathy, totally untouchable. Total my hands are shaking so hard I have to pin them under my thighs. Time for the Hail Mary. I slide the screen across the gloss, displaying the shell company I used to cloak our liquid capital. Vance's gaze sharpens for a heartbeat, hook, line, and sinker. My lawyers are statues behind me, terrified of the fuse I just lit. He has shredded my entire strategy, a decade on the floor, and I have never felt this small. this disposable. Simon is a brawler from the trenches who clawed his way up, while I was getting coddled in an Ivy League classroom. I made a career out of audit trails, hunting for that one specific number where a man's soul finally snaps. With my illegal armor and deep pockets, I felt invincible. I thought I was the one nobody could break. I forced the aggressive takeover terms forward. I am waiting for the tell, the stutter or the sweat that signals he is finally cornered. He does not even flinch. I am throwing every weapon I have at a fortress. This isn't a negotiation, it is a wake. He sits back with a ghost of a smirk, but the cratering stock price is the real obituary. I am fading fast. Even a shark respects the kill. My hidden asset play was a masterwork, more complex than any puzzle he had ever solved. If we played fair, my grasp of the fine print would have buried him 6 months ago. Once the silent partners were exposed, the game changed. Now it is just a slow, bloody grind to the finish. The clock is bleeding out and his exit ramps are closing. He is forced into one final reckless gamble. Suddenly he pivots, offering a massive opening. I am so starved for a breath of air that I bite immediately. I ink the contract and trigger the buy-it for one glorious second. I think I have finally cut his throat. Silence falls. His crown jewel is mine. Victory. Then he lets out a dry laugh. Appreciate eating the debt for me, Nathan. He weaponized my pride. He knew I had been chasing this ghost since I was 22. That flash of winning makes you blind. Arrogance is the only gap in the armor a predator needs. His litigation hits like a freight train. My ghost corporation evaporates instantly. Yet I am still standing. With the distractions gone, I drop the real hammer. Proof of his systemic fraud. I have the blade at his jugular. A gag order stops me cold. Let us talk settle, he mumbles. The merger is done. I win either way. Get this, kid, capitalism is a blood sport. I stumble out, my silk shirt clinging to my back like Ace. He just took me to school. My team is in shock that he would burn $1 billion division just to box me in. The man is a monster for a reason. He just flashes those teeth and asks if I am ready for round 2. If his wolves start sniffing around my personal accounts, he will find a way to make me disappear for good. My partner's jaw drops. When a king offers you a seat at the table, you do not hesitate. We walk into the dev lab. Simon starts dissecting the code like a surgeon. The head programmer looks like he has not slept since high school, but he is the engine of the entire firm. The age of instinct is dead. The kid says fortune and fame do not mean a thing anymore. We use the predictive market algorithm, the PMA. It scans every heartbeat of the market, turning chaos into cold, hard cash. Every shark in the city is hunting it. I see the hunger in his eyes. He is set for life, but his legacy needs a miracle to dodge the looming crash. He is thinking about his board. This tech could delete his competition from the map entirely. But $3,400,000,000 is a hell of a price tag. He hesitates. Then he pulls the trigger, my entire Rolodex, for a slice of that source code. My guys cave instantly. They have been worshipping at his altar for 20 years. They spent their lives trying to be him. Getting inside his circle is the ultimate high. They sign on the dotted line. He just grins, knowing he just handed them a ticking bomb. Easy there, he says, swirling his 20-year-old scotch. The real carnage has not even begun. Suddenly, the numbers shift. Inside play, now he owns the strings of every stock on the board. 10% profit on every move. He smiles. When you are at the summit, a little cheat code is a death sentence for everyone else. The Livy finally failed. It was that last, choking breath I took facing him. I redlined my soul, caring less about the why and more about the power. I had reached the summit, but breaking that seal made me godlike. I struck clinically, using our feud to hone my blade for the kill. The second round ignited, and I gambled everything on one perfect move. Pushing past 110%, I struck with cold, mechanical fury. Nathan froze while my blade moved like a glitch in the very universe. His tricks dissolved. He just stood there, staring at a reality he could not grasp. Gravity failed him, and he wondered if I had been holding back the whole time. Silence was my weapon. I closed the distance like a ghost with predatory intent. He scrambled for an exit, but my steel tracked him like a wolf. Nathan would not let it go. His constant begging finally broke my silence. Round 3 turned ugly when he stopped playing and started trying to kill. Clone's a bold choice. I simply tracked the one heartbeat hidden behind the shadows. At 110%, blocking 4 blades felt as easy as breathing. I owned the arena, even if his desperate speed kept me on a razor's edge. Looking at his partner, a dark, sharp plan began to take root in my mind. New rules: if I could not break his body, I would break his psyche. I dove into the chaos, a whirlwind leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Seeing his world crumble broke him, and he charged blindly into my trap. Game over, he collapsed, but I had to admire the kid's terrifying raw talent. After 3 rounds, Nathan had earned a seat at the table of dangerous monsters. Gerald was outclassed. The gap was too wide. I left Nathan with one cold warning. That power needed work, training done. I stepped into the dark to find peace. I was dying to see how this evolution would change my supernatural game. New eyes gave me 2 gifts: total digital surveillance and seeing a man's soul. I scanned myself. Leadership and tactical genius were both at a perfect 100. My past as commander finally made sense, so I sharpened my lethal range further. I could pull Thrawn's steel back instantly. Exhausting, but the tactical edge was absolute. Only the core remained, and the cost of that final change terrified me. Upon contact, my flesh turned to smoke, consumed by a hunger I could not stop. A flash of brilliance left me as a ghost for exactly 120 seconds. I was spirit, untouchable by iron, drifting through solid walls like they were mist. I stood breathless. This changed everything. I surged out, tasting absolute, raw freedom. I was a ghost of air and iron until a familiar, full rod hit me. My senses flared at the rancid, unmistakable stench of things rising from the abyss. I found them and grinned. Knowing those leeches were still breathing was enough. I threw my lance like a bullet, making the spirit realm bleed. Before the finish, a red alert flashed. My 120 seconds were vanishing. Reality snapped back, dragging me in the shell of a cheap hotel room. I punched the wall in a rage, already planning how to finish the hunt. The scent died. Miles away, a masked figure stood over a servant covered in blood. My spear remained, a silver promise that someone was finally hunting the hunters. They were not running, just waiting. Days later, the brothers arrived with girl Santa. I needed an elite crew and a pilot. Santa was the missing piece. My intuition pierced his facade, revealing the predator lurking within the shadows. That savage intensity proved his miserable statistics were a complete fabrication. A 3-year stint coaching froze my soul stone cold. The roster was pure trash, but those brutal tapes were irresistible. Savaging this disaster was my final shot at reaching the mountaintop. The man made one demand. 3 matches to demonstrate my killer instinct remained razor sharp. Victory is a narcotic. I remain an instinctive and cold-blooded hunter. The current lineup was nothing but a gathering of hollow shells. I swore a championship within 12 months until he finally buckled. Returning to the facility, I shoved the squad into a furnace. I converted their agony into cold, hard digital metrics of success. Training became surgical, though Santa despised my selection of broken misfits. He figured I lost it by hiring that random nobody, Joe. Everyone else saw a kid sprinting headlong toward a brick wall. Santa perceived a risk. I recognized a monarch in the making. I spotted a prodigy that the computers were too primitive to detect. A few more traumas and he would become my ultimate lieutenant. Santa stepped back, leaving me with Chu and that pathetic Yun. Chu showed real promise. Yun was merely wasting perfectly good air. He looked like garbage, but I sensed a storm coming. At 69, a final nudge pushes him beyond the human threshold. I instructed Santa to trust the vision that never steered wrong. I silenced his protest with a single, icy and ruthless stare. 17 days later, the scoreboard confirmed my status as a deity. The footage depicted my rejects transforming in absolute primal beasts. Now, these damaged goods form the foundation of the entire secret project. Santa stood shocked at the animal Chuhuk had eventually become. I access a well of grit that no machine could ever quantify. My instance felt like a gift from something profoundly and darkly divine, but Yunbei was fracturing, praying for some cheap stroke of luck. Watching the rookies outpace him was rotting his soul from within. He asked if he represented my first true professional catastrophe. I explained that evolution demands a heavy toll of blood and sweat. He questioned if I was playing God. I simply laughed aloud. This is war. Your soft heart is a terminal death warrant. I hauled him up the peaks to force a backbone into him. Strength is merely the world aligning with the silence in your mind. To me, that tranquility only exists in the midst of total carnage. I have chased that void since the orphanage first defined my soul. Every man has devils, the real ones let them bite deep. I led him to the precipice and gave him a shove. 10 days spent decaying in the stench of his own failure. I confiscated his device and swore to erase his entire legacy. He appeared like a ghost, but the harsh truth finally landed. Is failure my destiny? I fought for air, white-knuckling my way through the tremors. If the boss truly sees potential, I have to make it count. Eyes locked, I weaponized the fear into pure freezing intent. 10 days slipped by like a fever dream. I loomed them toward the entrance, eyes glued to the flickering stats on my screen. Bingo! Found it dragging my exhausted frame toward the light. I spotted the glint of the lens watching my every move. I opened my mouth to argue, but his piercing look cut me short. He snapped that the mid-season premiere was breathing down our necks. Seize the day, claim this power, because the following bout is your ticket to the pros. Intermission over. Now I had to go toe-to-toe with those elite knights. The knights snapped into a 4-free formation instantly. Our group scattered, leaving me to stalk the shadows like a ghost. The stadium erupted. Nobody in their right mind goes into those woods alone. Those monsters turned solo players into body bags. On the field, the heavy armor units were already trading blows with the first wave of beasts. Just as the bloodbath hit its peak, a lone projectile whistled through the thick, humid air. Lee played her hand, but these pros weren't biting. They didn't even flinch at the bait. They triggered a mental scan. Bypassing the fake, they started zeroing in on our actual position. Target acquired, they pinned someone crouching behind a stone 1,000 yards out. That was the mark. A 4-man hit squad bolted forward to finish it. Lena just watched from the wings, a dangerous grin playing on her mouth. Stage 1 locked in, they cornered the target, but when the illusion shattered, their blood ran cold. Micho hucked the little brick wall of our defense. Our wings hammered them from the flank. They didn't realize the gear swap was a lethal setup until it was too late. Josano hit the trigger, teleporting that massive plate armor back to the rightful owner. The tank tossed a heavy bag of the confused intruders. They caught it by instinct, clueless that it was packed with poisonous spores. That was the scheme. One group baits the chase while the rest of us harvest the toxic cargo. We snatched the pods, beamed them through the gate, and had our bruiser hand deliver the payload. The moment that shell cracked, the spores hit the atmosphere and turned into a nightmare of vines. Wick thorns lashed out, dragging the knights down in a heartbeat. The hunters became the hunted. Word filtered back to their reinforcements. It was a bloodbath that their commander roared for them to hold the line. Kill the monsters and group up, now while the twins guard the front against the swarm. One player stood perfectly still, like a mannequin, annoyed. The leaders stormed over after the beasts were dealt with. He shoved the guy's shoulder and the corpse just slumped over. The announcer's roar rattled the entire dome. Score 1 for me, the twins froze in horror. How a red pool was already soaking into the grass. The real killer in the dark finally struck. I notched a double kill before they could even scream. I whipped around toward the twins, but their speed was on a whole different level. Hiding was no longer an option. The old man warned me that a fair fight with this setup was a suicide mission. Going head-to-head was a death sentence. I reached for my only tools, a crossbow and a jagged short sword. I burst from the dark, weapon ready. Seo watched from the sideline with a cold, hungry look. The bow didn't have the reach, but it was deadly accurate and hit right where it hurt. Seeing me flip the script mid-fight was exactly what he wanted from his newest recruit. Still, a slugfest for my opening match was a nightmare. I just had to keep the blade moving. There is always a gap if you keep the pressure on. Out of ammo, I unsheathed my steel and sprinted ahead. Halfway there, my foot caught a jagged stone. I bit the dust hard as the twins watched in disbelief. Is this amateur hour? Before they could capitalize, I rolled into a crack in the wall and vanished. Hell, that was embarrassing. You just gonna run back to the dark? Is that your whole act? I stayed silent. He still didn't see the trap perfect. I lunged back out just as the twins were losing their cool. You little cockroach, nowhere to hide now. The sword came down, but I didn't move an inch. The blade bit deep into my chest, a perfect, lethal straight-on strike. The twins squinted. Why wasn't I falling then? The terrifying truth finally hit them. Every engine dies eventually, and his tank is bone dry. I am ending this now. The victim act was a ruse. I led those idiots straight to the slaughterhouse. A heavy blade whistles past my skull, but I pivot. Steel bites the dirt. That momentum leaves them wide open. I watch the panic hit those bald dugs. I was not even sweating, just toying with them before vanishing into the shadows. My steel is out. Who needs silence when the world is already dead black? Seo smirks, watching the fatal strike land with a master surgeon's cold grace. This one was a giveaway. Keep this up and the gold is basically ours. Why settle? Bringing home a world title is a dream worth dying for. Since Santa took over, I have not wasted a second on the crew's logistics. I was rotting away when a legend walked in, Eric Talon, the god of axes. He came looking for a beer, but some rough seas slowed his arrival down. The man literally tracked my scent across town until he reached my front porch. That dead stare is beautiful. Toulon brings the storm but refuses to stay down. No matter how deep the grave, he always finds a way back out. My buddy's wife loves the war stories. We eat until we are about to pop. After dinner, Toulon leans in, whispering he has got a special gift for me. He pulls a glowing gem from his bag, a beacon used to revisit the abyss. My pulse spikes. These were everywhere once, but now they are priceless relics. This is my ticket back. Toulon crashes for 48 hours before vanishing. He asked me to follow, but I am already packing iron for somewhere darker. Gio looks confused, leaving, just heading back to paradise. I tell him, I'm kickstarting the bike and flying toward the peaks I call home. Still blows my mind that old man was sitting on a priceless treasure. This gem buys my retirement. All the gold I buried 20 years ago. The thought alone pumps my blood. I sprint toward the high mountain summit. I reach the cave where that massive rock still seals my hidden stash. Back, cracking a stone created a phantom cell. An invisible vault hidden from reality. I built this tome for my score, never expected this rotten air again. That dungeon stench hits me, and my killer instincts immediately catch fire. I tried the normal life, but I was lying. My heart belongs here. Right as I relax, a spike of malice hits my neck. I freeze. This pit should be empty. Nobody has touched this seal in many years. Unless I grip my pike. If scavengers are down here, things get bloody. Honestly, I am craving a massacre to vent all this jagged, pent-up energy. I rush the main room. A flash of white heat nearly takes my head. I dive back, adrenaline spiking. What I see turns my excitement into horror. A massive, bloated Zadron, not a local, and killing it will be hell. Judging by that gut, the damn beast probably ate every cent I hid. These parasites eat gold and filth alike. To monsters, they are just cattle. They gorge on power, which the dwellers then harvest like ripe grain. How did it slip in? Did I miss a seed when I cleaned? I did not make mistakes. I was certain I had burned this hellhole. I will get the truth once it is dead. The beast strikes with tendrils. My grip tightens on the pipe as I parry every frantic swipe. Seeing an opening, I strike. Metal snaps bone, pinning into the stone. A sickening crunch rings out. He is finished. Victory tastes like dirt. Yanking the steel free, I trash the room, venting years of suppressed rage. I demolish the walls until I bleed. 1 hour later, only dust remains. The vault is gutted bare, just like my bank balance. Something is off. That hidden floor safe where I stashed my retirement and gems years ago. The lock is set. I spin it, hoping for hope, but feel nothing. The pit is empty, just stone. Most saw money. I saw my life. Only my ex-partners knew this. Did those snakes really rob my home? A gold link shines in the debris. Mine. The truth hits hard. The ghost I was hunting was real. He circled back and robbed me. I scan the ruin as the nightmare finally starts to make sense. The parasite lived in the wall. walls, using my own gear to track me. Thick dread fills the hall. I turn, a red silhouette steps into view. A jagged laugh breaks from me. Vultures, I knew you were still around. 11 months of playing house, and I was starving for this professional slaughter. These bottom feeders live for greed. I am exactly the monster they deserve. The bastard sees my grin and shows his teeth. You pathetic loser, why return? I let out a low, hungry laugh. Failure. I liquidated your entire company before you even woke up today. Stings, right? Honestly, you were just the perfect target. You crushed the weak, so I hunted you, we fed on you. He snaps, he charges with a shard, eyes full of murderous hate. I ready the iron, embracing the chaos, the threat arrives fast. A sharp crack sounds as I dodge. That offshore scam was genius. I dance around him, mocking his slow, desperate swings. Steel hits ribs and he shakes, but the real blow is coming. No one knows about the hidden ledgers. Not even the board sees them. My secret, I watch his soul die and smile. Time to go. I am the phantom that torched your kingdom 17 years back. He freezes. I am his nightmare. He lashes out like a beast, but I knew. My pipe breaks his guard easily. Strike, twist, strike again. I drive the steel home, pinning him. I am bored by this. Total disappointment. I wanted a war, not a lesson. I watch him. He is nobody, just a low-level rat for the bosses upstairs. These kids are just tools. This one was just a dog for gold. I grab the iron in his chest and give a slow twist. Where are the others? That snake from the office. Who leads you? Give me the Grandmaster. My captive spits blood and stares. You are already dead, he wheezes. The boss is here for you. The savior is near. Suddenly, the dying man pulls a hidden wire. The gas ignites, and the whole room turns into a firestorm. In the smoke, he lies broken. Then he sees me standing unharmed. His eyes burn with a crazed light. Are you the savior? Have you finally come? Surveying this wreckage is nauseating. Honestly, just quit breathing and fade out. I craved a quiet heaven, but some parasite just liquidated my life's work. I am saddled with my brother's widow while ancient demons keep clawing at me. Prophetic revelations. Can some total crackpot actually wield that level of influence? Those guttural howls from the pit 17 years ago are still ringing in my skull. For supposedly brilliant minds, they completely overlook their own rapidly approaching destruction. A lifetime ago, I personally pulverized every last energy source in those hellish pits. Word is it will take 10,000 years to restore that city's former prestige. That is all irrelevant now. Their internal clock has officially hit zero. That creature was merely a famished shadow. I genuinely anticipated a real challenge. I arrived seeking a massacre, but only found the stench of his absolute terror. Back then, those lunatics begged for a lifeline before blowing themselves to kingdom come. This one was pathetic, boring. I am heading out. Waited, glow in the dark. A dark figure slips inside, surveying the field of corpses with a heavy groan. Absolute Zadran garbage, yet look at you, Sandman, somehow still drawing breath. I am gutting him today. Suddenly, a pale-haired ghost just blinks into existence. Jiho starts yapping instantly. Taking a stroll? Where's the jeer you owe me? I give him a hollow stare and hurl the vial. Treat it like gold. His blood runs cold as Zadran seed. Since when? I thought I hit it. Jiho is vibrating with panic. This thing could level the entire metropolitan area. 99% of these people are bystanders. Like I give a single damn. I will fix this disaster. Name your fee. Cultists are still hunting this thing. Just bankrolling their experiments while patting my own pockets with some effortless green. Relax, Jiho is just standing there looking like he turned into solid stone. We need the chief. The World Warfire League wants a piece of this action. Lina's training is showing. She is absolutely shattering the morale of her enemies. Every movement is pure, lethal precision. Her rivals are now plotting her assassination. Checking her performance stats, I actually feel a rare, tiny spark of satisfaction. I am never around, but her strategic growth is absolutely through the roof. She is burying Nathan. Once she is the brand, the checks will clear themselves. The fans only show up to watch her paint the arena floor red. Bomb has zero following. He is a scavenger, biting only when death is certain. By the time they spot him, the job is done. He has vanished. Wasserman clinches the title. Next up, the high-stakes postseason tournament. Gio offers praise, then mentions the league is seizing the specimen. I glare at him. You failed. The league move at a snail's pace. Thought that slipped your mind. Gio fidgets like a toddler caught in a lie. ESM is rolling, but playoff rosters are lethal. Can you actually win it? Drop the act. You know I am taking that trophy. Jiho just stops cold. Keep a secret. Watch this. Santa's broadcasting live on every channel now. The host asks for the strategy. Santa just stares daggers into the lens. That cup belongs to us, period. The journalist is stunned by the pure ego. Santa claims the boss gave a total guarantee before we even hit the ground. He pities the competition because I, Salmon, are handling 3 full rounds myself. Jiho nearly drops his glasses. Talk about bringing heavy artillery to a playground scrap. With the boss holding all the leverage, we kept our mouths shut and waited for an easy opening while Santa plotted the carnage. Our postseason run kicked off against WC, a top-tier powerhouse that had spent months trying to crack our strategy. They recruited Hanning App, a tracker whose surveillance could find a single heartbeat in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane. The guy was a joke in a fistfight, but he could tag 5 targets and monitor their vitals from the other side of the planet. That meant a death sentence for Yunbom and Jo Sunho. One lock on and they were essentially walking corpses. With HBC tracking our every move in real time, hope was bleeding out, but Sam told us to stay focused on the goal. He dreamt up a reckless, unproven strategy for Jo Sun-ho. Before I could even process it, game day arrived. The internet was blowing up as the entire world debated whether Seo Yeop would even bother showing his face. Our minor league felt like the center of the universe when Sam walked out to a roar that shook me to my core. He is drowning in his own fame and does not even notice the tide, which finally made our most silent veteran speak up. He told the boss to leave his ego at the door before both teams met at midfield, where the HBC players looked terrified. Pure panic hit them, while we just stood there like ice. Having the owner on the field felt like a total cheat code. We knew the prize was ours the moment Sam activated his tactical display as the timer hit 0. Seeing 0 threats nearby, he monitored Jo Sun-ho as he scrambled for the high ground, trying to vanish in the thin air. This time, Joe was carrying heavy-duty glass instead of his sword as we stormed forward like a storm was at our backs. The entire squad pushed out except Seen, who just lingered at the start, casually stretching the tension out of his neck. Meanwhile, the 6-man HBC crew was already busy collecting early kills just to inflate their numbers for the real clash. They were relying on Hanning's radar to ghost us, hoping to stretch the match until they could close the power gap. In this professional circuit, every takedown fuels your momentum and levels your stats, which is the only true path to victory. Play those cards right and nobody can take down a god. So charging Sam head-on was a literal one-way trip to hell. Knowing that, HBC scrapped their frontliners and packed their entire roster with nothing but elite, long-distance marksmen. The plan was basic: stalk our backline from the darkness and pick us off like sitting ducks, one by one. But that entire gambit relied on us being paralyzed by fear and them dodging Seen until they were powered up for the kill. Their leader was finally finding his rhythm, his focus meter glowing with a wicked, deep purple light. Right when they thought they had the upper hand, a streak of silver lightning tore the air, aimed straight for the leader's throat. He managed to dodge, but Hanning took the blade square in the chest, and the entire arena went completely silent. Seen had not even stepped past the starting line, yet he was racking up kills from miles away as the new strategy took over. Combining long-range throws with instant weapon recalls meant he could clear the field without moving, using Joe as his eyes. Jo Sun-ho acted as the spotter while Seen played the heavy artillery, launching steel through a lens he could not even see. That kind of synchronization is unnatural, and the HBC squad like they had just watched a ghost walk through them. Their captain screamed for backup, only to realize his second squad was already wiped and he completely lost his nerves. We can't even see the guy. So how do we fight back? This was the brand new nightmare summon created for them. By using Joe's vision to guide his own hand, Sam was hitting targets he could not even touch during our practice rounds. Calculating wind speed and drop from that distance is impossible, but he found a rhythm like he was counting cards. He just knew exactly where the iron had to land, and this first bloodbath was just the warm-up act for him. He was absolutely shredding them, a display of pure talent that left Jet EO standing there with his mouth wide open. Aiming blind was one thing, but that instant blade snapback looked like something out of a twisted horror movie. I have worked beside him for years and never saw that move. The HBC players were actually starting to break down in tears. They were completely defenseless against the phantom blades that seemed to fall from the sky out of nowhere. Seen was even stealing the kills they were trying to track. If it breathed on his monitor, it died right then. The most terrifying part was that he was actually smiling, a look that finally forced the HBC leader to call a retreat. Just as they ran, another spear whistled through the air, forcing the captain to use his shield in a final block. The steel bit into the ground, and while they thought they had survived, they missed the real predator hiding in the grass. A shadow emerged from the spear caught in the light, and Seen signaled for Yun Bei to finish the job. "Stop playing games," Seen growled, "because it's finally time you started earning that paycheck of yours." I gave into the abyss, dragging Yun Bei into my own personal hell while my team pushed themselves to the breaking point. The match was decided before it started. I had already mapped their total destruction before my shoes even hit the floor. Sirens wailed over the carnage as I walked toward the tunnel. The crowd's roar felt less like cheers and more like worship for a demon. Santa kept talking about the brand and the hype, but I just met her gaze with a dead, hollow stare. Time to kill the lights on this performance. From here on out, the real nightmare takes center stage. Round 2 dropped us into Bridge City, a skyscraper-filled labyrinth hanging over a freezing, bottomless void. One wrong move meant falling through a glitch or a total collapse. They call this place the career ender for a reason. When the clock hit 0, my crew dived into a slaughterhouse crawling with things that wanted us dead. Skeletal spiders wove traps to turn the living into mindless puppets for their growing army of the dead. The realism was sickening. The stench of rotting flesh from my old life in the trenches seemed to choke me. Scanning the chaos, I told my guys to handle the weaklings so I could dismantle the 8 leaders myself. I prepped my final move, sliding 8 steel spikes between my knuckles and throwing them like a hurricane. Those blades had a mind of their own, the air filled with the wet sound of tearing skin and agony. The violence was addictive. Even my teammates froze, paralyzed by the sheer brutality of my work. They wondered if I was still human. 2 minutes, and 30 seconds later, nothing was left breathing. That kind of speed would break the professional circuit. I signaled Jo Song-ho to start the final ritual. I ordered him to burn his focus, draining him dry to provide a massive power boost for the whole squad. A guttural roar shook the room. My team panicked, realizing we were trapped on a crumbling ledge. Some arrogant blonde kid smirked, calling in snipers to finish us off. Honestly, the whole play was amateur hour. I almost respected the sheer stupidity it took to believe a basic trap could stop a freak like me. I figured if we were going down, we were all going together. As the enemy hesitated, I recalled my steel spikes. The blades tore back toward my hand at high speed, shredding anyone who stood in the way. Exactly as I had planned, the concrete beneath our feet began to shatter and fall away. The ledge disappeared, sending us into the abyss. I had scripted this entire fall from the jump. I knew every pixel of this map. I had already guided my team onto the only safe piece of rock. My squad landed on solid ground. The pathetic rookies on the other side fell into nothing but air and lies. Watching them plumb into the dark was not enough to satisfy the hunger gnawing at my gut. I wanted them erased before they hit the floor. I dove into the abyss like a wraith, taking them one by one. 4 players were wiped out in 2.5 seconds. The entire stadium went dead silent. The fans doubted I was even real. After my 5th kill, I locked eyes with the last survivor. I jammed a spike through his chest, using his body as a board to ride the fall all the way down. Surfing a corpse to the finish line, it was effortless, cold, and the ultimate way to humiliate them. The remaining players just gave up. They saw something in my eyes that was not human, something far more lethal. I steamrolled the entire squad with pure malice. 11 bodies hit the dirt in an instant. Stats like that were impossible even for the elites. The roar of the arena felt like an earthquake. The fans got exactly what they wanted. Lean ran over afterward, practically shaking with pure adrenaline. I felt numb. Why celebrate when you were just stepping on ants? I had broken much better players than these. Lean just stood there, seeing that I had completely shattered their spirits. I told Santa to sit me for the next game. I had already hollowed those kids out to the core. The rest of my team could sweep up. If they could not win this, we might as well quit. The opening series was over before it. 3 straight wins, a total shutout. The second set followed the script. I used raw, ugly power to remind everyone who owns the throne. Billionaire owners were begging for a meeting, ready to pay any price just to get my name on a contract. Halfway across the globe in City L, the legend Emery Kase felt his grip slip while watching the feed. He could not ignore me anymore. Not with the world's biggest clubs fighting over a piece of me. Spark Club rules the roost, a brutal regime run by the Bald brothers. Nathan and Key hold the line with a pack of cold-blooded thugs. Joral's crew fell first, then Cass's Steel Legion. Wrecking Ball powered by the human hurricane, Daniel Mance. They pick apart enemies like doctors, but between Spark and Steel, it's personal. This isn't tea business. It's a vendetta. The logic is simple. Snagging Seo Mun Yeop is like hitting the jackpot. He's the only ticket to a championship ring. Casa broke the news, and the old man turned white as a sheet. Loyalty is one thing, but Casa and Seo Yeop, they've breathed pure poison for years. 17 years back, they hit a dead end. Brutal, endless stalemate. 2 worlds crashed. Tula shattered. Just a scorched earth disaster. The rest of us just ducked for cover. Finally, the boss looked Casa in the eye and gave it to him straight. Seo Yeop is a stray you can domesticate. The owner told Casa to get lost before he lost his damn mind. Look, Steel Legion always takes silver, but we're still top tier. We're one of the most feared squads on the map. Akasa would budge, spinning stories until the boss snapped. Fine, he growled. What's the price tag? Casa didn't flinch to buy his freedom from the Bald brothers. You're looking at $180 million, cold hard cash. The boss nearly fainted. Do I look like I'm made of money? Get real, he barked. Seo Mun Yeop only signed for 3 games a year, yet he's out here shredding every bracket we enter. As the coach, I was hanging by a thread. Boss, can we just fly low for 5 minutes? These sets were for the rookies, but you torched the whole place instead. What's the play here? He flashed a wicked smile and ordered another round. Amidst the shouting, Chu Dongjum burst in, looking terrified. Our mailboxes exploded with buyout bids. Seo Mun just sat back, acting like he could care less. Why bother trash them? He snapped, but the boss cut in. They were offering $100 billion for him alone. With numbers like that, the math changed. Offloading Seo Mun Yeop actually started looking like a genius play. That kind of dub builds a legacy for the National League. Seo Mun just looked lost. The National League, he muttered. Should we be chasing the world title? I let out a long sigh. Not in a million years, kid. You're a legend here, sure, but globally you won't be dropping 11 kills. It's a fast track to an early grave. His jaw set, he wanted to argue, but the truth stung. He's seen the carnage Nathan can bring. If we hit a team that's stacked, he's toast. What if we scout some external pros? He asked. That fixes it, right? I just gave him a blank stare. Who'd sign with a sinking ship like this? No perks, no ride, no check. They'd bail instantly. Every pro is taken. We'd be bottom feeding for scraps. Let's face it, the talent here is pathetic. There's zero chance of actually getting better. Beside me being trapped in this mess, there's no reason to stay. Seo Mun went silent, looking totally crushed. Looks like we're starting over with green kids. After the finals, he called Chu and me into his office. Our core 7-man squad was finally etched in stone. He's scouting for heavy tanks frontline hitters, and a sniper who never misses a shot. Loon's steady, but her damage is laughable. A real heavy hitter would finally bridge the gap and anchor us. He pushed a memo across the desk. These were his top picks for the winter trade window. I skimmed the list. Chu froze. Boss, please tell me this is a joke. You want this guy? It was a total long shot. The first leg of our scouting trip turned out to be a dead end. Coach Fatty gave us the bad news. One kid went to Twin Star, and the other he's done with the game. His parents left him enough cash to retire early. Seaman just stood there, speechless. We headed out, but Fatty stopped us. He mentioned an old student of his named Yong Min. He just finished school, but went off the rails. Rumor says he's running with some bad people. Seaman just laughed. Do I look like I'm doing charity work? Fatty swore the kid was a born killer on the field. He was a monster in the trenches. Fatty couldn't stand seeing that kind of raw talent rot in the trash. Seaman hesitated. So I'm supposed to be the hero and save him. Fine, he grumbled. Lead the way. We eventually found Yong Min in a filthy, smoke-filled dive bar. Fatty wasn't kidding. The kid's gift was insane, but totally wild. He'd been rotting in the dark way too long. Covering his face, Seaman kept his hood up as he walked in. Some local thugs started talking smack immediately. That clown strolled in like a king. Simon does-he-do relaxed. He moves with surgical precision. My crew lunges, but those predator eyes freeze me. Stop, I shriek, but the fuse on this nightmare is already burning. When the shouting stops, my entire crew is face down on the cold floor. Simon drops his gear and looms over me. We are talking now. A girl in a white hat starts filming. You guys need to see this. That masked psycho, it is actually him. In 3 seconds, we are globally trending. After venting his rage with that beatdown, Simon looks strangely at peace. My crew joining, he asks. I blank him and just restart the match. I figured he would quit. That was the most foolish choice I ever made. One correction later, he hauls me outside until he spots a girl recording. Kill the feed, he growls. She smirks. Too late. We are currently live. Simon freezes. Since return, all this new tech feels like dark sorcery. He stares at the phone, watching comments scroll faster than humanly possible. Someone gifts 1,000-star candies instantly. The girl begins a victory dance. Simon watches with pure disgust. Is this what the world has become? After a 5-second camera tutorial, he glares directly into the lens. A small lesson for lost souls. Our dispute is officially over. If any liar twists this story, I will find you for private sessions. He shoos her away, turning that murderous gaze back toward me. Why could I tremble? Life's a wreck. My parents split when I was young. I was nursing my grandparents while my father stayed perpetually wasted. Simon barks. I do not want a sob story. Give me the summary. The truth stings. I love gaming, but dad's drinking torched our house. My grandparents nearly burned alive in that massive house fire. I quit to protect them, but watching old rivals succeed kills me daily. My voice breaks, but Simon yanks my collar before I can even cry. You enough acting in. I wheeze. Fine, but you fix my father. Make him sober. Permanently. Simon laughs. Kid, you have some serious nerve. Deal struck. Simon's version of rehab is naturally a total nightmare. He uses the old man's own liquid to terrify him into permanent sobriety. The next recruit, Kim Jinsu, is perfect, a tank with zero fear. His power is mid, but his mental grit is 91%. With 81% speed and 88% defense, he is the wall. During the talk, Simon asks his secret. I am tough. I never quit. Simon expects a brawl, but Jinsu signs before the ink even dries. Nobody rejects Simon. If he wants you, you are becoming a star. Meanwhile, the manager stares at a name on the roster, looking totally confused. He is chaotic. Simon shrugs, but Data wins. The manager goes pale. You do not get it. There is blood between him and the boss. The problem is Shim Wong-soo, the man Simon broke years ago. Now he is a hollow shell, wasting away at some local dive bar. He has no idea Simon is coming. Simon's peace talks always involve blood. You are total has-been, Simon says, but I have an offer. Join. Shim Young snaps. Think you can play God just because you have returned. Everything is ruined. I me through believing your fairy tales. So I shut him up with a heavy right hook. Zip it. I beat him down until he has just a broken, shaking mess on the frozen pavement. Chill out, kid. One call from me and your dead-end career is suddenly back on track. That's enough in the service. I stared down lunatics 10 times more arrogant than you will ever be. The second I pulled that street kid from the gutter, he started his climb toward becoming a legend. If you want to win, quit the whining and just do exactly what I tell you. I toss him my card and vanish. By nightfall, his father forces him to join my crew. The kid's in shock. He was certain his dad hated me, especially after that nasty fallout with Jiho. Weren't they enemies? Yet his old man is serious. Why, I hate the guy who kept us all alive. No hard feelings. I just hated watching a natural talent waste away under such pathetic, amateur leadership. Seriously, when it comes to coaching, the guy is a total fraud and completely out of his league. If that veteran has pull with the brass, I'm in. Plus, he actually managed to sign Santa. Santa's talent is one of a kind. The boy is trembling. Sure, I'm just looking for a reason to kill him. You think he'll murder me? The kid asks. His dad just lets out a dry, raspy laugh. The elite hated his style, but it saved the world. I literally gave my life for that mission. You have no clue what I can do. Sign here. In 30 days, you will be a new man. 17 brutal days later, and Ivy only got 3 recruits. 2 are total disasters with 0 discipline. Santa doesn't get it. He can wrap his head around why me digging through trash for these rejects. He misses the fire. I don't blame him. Data track stats, but it can't measure a man's heart. Numbers want to show potential. Just wait. This kid has been wandering in the dark for 12 months. He needs space. Still, I have to admit, our roster is looking pretty sad and empty right now. The local well is dry, the pros are signed, and the leftovers are too stubborn to be coached. Santa mentions looking abroad. The league allows 5 international players on the starting lineup every year. I get home to find Hayan waiting. The hellish training worked. Her performance numbers are through the roof. Maybe those fanatics were right. Driving her to the edge really turned her into a top-tier pro. Her tactical mind and presence are chilling. She's more than an athlete. She's a natural-born leader. Jiho walks in uninvited. With my digital overlay active, I take a quick look at his stats. 51 for command, 62 for tactics. Pathetic. No wonder the national team collapsed under his watch. It all makes sense now. I sigh, telling him to relax. He's just playing a losing hand. My pity confuses him. Over dinner, we talk about bringing some aggressive new talent onto the team. Gio brings up country tea for scouting. Hayan's face lights up the second she hears the name. She starts begging to come along if I'm heading out there to find some new recruits. Word is the Warriors there worship me. Apparently, 70% of them started training because of my legacy. That's a hell of an ego boost. I agree, leaving Jiho looking like he took a gut punch. Am I ditching him for his girl again? Hayan tells him he needs to settle down. Just the 2 of us this time. We catch a late flight straight to the heart of country tea. When we land, I see a familiar face. It's Teamer, an old war buddy from the conflict. He wasn't a top 7 legend, but he was definitely a top 20 powerhouse back then. I didn't expect a welcome. He laughs, saying he saw my arrival time on the morning news. Nowadays, he runs the National Association, managing the most famous organization in the entire country. He hears I am scouting and insists I visit his gym. I give in and head inside. The moment we cross the doorway, a flash of steel comes flying straight for my throat. I duck instantly. A split second later, a lethal shadow lunges at me with incredible speed. I dodge a flurry of strikes to get some room. I look over. It's a girl with long hair. So you're the legend. Let's go. Suddenly, Teamer clips her upside the head before I can move. The reality of it gutted me. Sonia was definitely his. I stood there, stone cold. Are you saying the labs verified this? He just smirked, acting like it was nothing. If a nobody can father a kid, why would a legend like me? I looked the girl, my stomach in knots. I flicked my tactical overlay on, and the world went icy. Her potential was terrifying. That internal combustion, it cranks her kill rate up by 40%. I forgot how to breathe. Aside from one nightmare I used to know, her stats were haunting. She is already breaking records that take the old pros 30 years to even approach. Reaching her peak would make her a god like Nathan. I walked over. What is your role? Frontline tank. She spat. I looked her up and down and grinned. Heard you wanted a shot at the best. Guns up. Let us see what you were worth. We sensed, dropping into the blood-stained arena. She was lugging a massive polearm and a high-tech tactical shield. In her stance, I saw a shadow of my younger self. She roared and launched that spear. It was a silver blur heading for my skull. I tilted my head, just barely feeling the rush of air. The blade hissed past. From that speed alone, I knew she had triggered her internal overdrive. Her base power is 72, hitting 101 when she is revved up. That is lethal, even if it is sloppy. No time for talk. She lunged. Her spear tip came at me like lead from a rifle. I slipped through the steel, tracking her pulse, her absolute peak. 87. With a surge, she is hitting at 122. It is pure madness, yet her basics are perfect. I had her figured out. Time to show her the massive gap between a rookie and a ghost. I parried her thrust and moved in. My blade was a flash of light at her throat. She gasped, scrambling back. She chose to retreat instead of holding the line. Her defense is garbage, totally telegraphed. Most heavies just hide behind the metal and pray. I carry my own plate for 2 very specific, very lethal reasons. 1, I use high-level foresight to kill every threat before it even makes contact. 2, I am honest about my weaknesses. I am fast as hell, but I lack raw power. My kit isn't the deadliest on paper, but is the only one that fits my soul. But for her, this safe playstyle is just a slow way to die. She has power to spare and elite speed, yet she is hiding in a shell. Forcing her into heavy plate is a crime. She is literally suffocating her own gift. I was torn. Build a fortress or a weapon. That is a problem for another night. Tonight, I had to break her ego. I became a shadow as I closed the gap. I drove my spear into her defense. She tried to turtle, but she was dreaming if she thought that would work. A single strike sent her buckler spinning into the dark corners of the arena. I snatched her balance right out from under her. She hit the ground hard. The noise died down. My knuckles stopped an inch from her nose. I had not even broken a sweat. Cornered and beaten, I gave a jagged grin. I pulled my punches at the end. Kid simulation over. Honestly, I was disgusted. Is this the junk your old man shoved into your head? She confessed her father forced the shield on her to bottle her power. She had always worshipped my style. I told her my dual blade flow is about balance. perfectly timing the impact to keep moving. It keeps me light on my toes, so I can strike or vanish in a heartbeat. But her raw power is so massive that the shield is basically a ball and chain. She is too rigid to switch from defense to the kill. This setup is killing your potential. I told her, drop the scrap metal, grab a second javelin, and let that storm inside you loose. Before I could finish, she snapped her head away, a sharp, freezing no. My temper flared. The pure nerve of this brat. My handler stepped in before I did something I would regret. He has spent 30 months managing my fuse. He dragged me out before I tore the roof off. Expecting a no was easy, enduring that suffocating quiet was impossible. She worshipped my talent until my godhood proved to be a lie. Timur lay gasping, cuffing red after 10 years trailing behind me. I stood frozen as her potential eclipsed my own within a decade. Hiding my avarice, I hooked her, eyeing a massive financial windfall. Your destiny is mine now. Sonia, the States are our new home. My competitor crumbles while I hijack her most promising star pupil. Word is the pros have tracked my stats for quite some time. Without me, she is finished, unless she exploits her father's leverage. That icy rejection me forced him to incinerate my entire master plan. She is a 9-figure asset destined to wipe out my bankruptcy. Sculpting her means banking a fortune every single 12-month cycle. Cutting ties with the gang, she is my only priority now. A cold smirk spread. Fine, just do not screw this up. We split while my rival escaped abroad, citing some vague disaster. Was it professional panic or genuine tragedy? I truly did not care. Her father is spiraling, but I feel absolutely nothing for him. Hooked on her lethality, I secured the top specialist in the industry. Obey my rigid dictates. She challenged the coach, hunting the ghost I once put down. I summoned the Wraith Sarban. She whispered, summon that hellish thing. With predatory precision, she tracked the virtual killer through the abyss. Decay filled the air before a searing beam sliced the void. The floor vanished, leaving a giant smoldering hole in the hull. Sarban spun, but she was mid-lunge, blade seeking its black heart. A blinding white burst vaporized the fiend before it could strike. Stillness returned as the wraith dissolved, leaving the expert speechless. Craving my praise, she only got done. Get cocky, kid. I could clear that asleep. Now, endure the specialist for 30 days. Her jaw tightened. You swore you would be my personal coach. Feeling thrown away, she heard me say, deal with it, rookie. I monitor from the wings, while my hired gun handles everything. Honestly, purely professionally, the man might actually outclass my skills. I guaranteed she would crush the season D, but in 4 weeks. Kick off, my unit facing a squad of grizzled elite combat veterans. Before the start, the arena hummed with a terrifying electric energy. 4 fresh assassins materialized. I engineered this force in 1 month. We brought 3 tanks, 4 strikers, 3 deadies, and 1 healer, but those classic designations were merely a deceptive, tactical facade. The deady charges in, and the heavy turns into a scalpel. Even Jahan, a born slaughterer, plays the healer role with precision. This slaughterhouse engine pivots from deep dungeons to total massacres. To maximize lethality, I recruited the powerhouse Shimi Youngsu, no mastermind, just a man acting like a walking heavy cannon. Sizing up my deadly work, I grinned. Are we lucky today? Give the old man his due. He saw a lethal edge where we only saw liability. Swapping her safety for a jagged knife flipped the game, starting a month-long descent into savagery. Once you reach the peak, fighting for every inch of progress feels like hauling a mountain uphill. Stuck in the crossfire, she turned into a predator that left every bystander frozen in pure shock. The rest are clueless about the 72-hour marathon he spent breaking her spirit for this shift. Watching her felt unreal. We hadn't seen such a brutal power jump since the first Titan arrived. The crowd was howling for blood, but the boss stayed dead silent without giving a single order. He handed the reins to the rookie as if the victory were already a done deal. Our target sat inside the sepulchre, a massive upside-down fortress buried deep in the charred ground. You drop through the roof and carve a path through hell to hit the basement nightmare. We spent all morning dodging razor-sharp gears built to shred flesh and bone on impact. Then you have the spores. Tiny parasites that hack your nerves and treat you like a puppet. Judging by his face, the chief looked haunted, like he was back in those old world skirmishes. We were flying blind back then, and I saw a buddy get hollowed out by a parasite. That thing eats your mind for 60 seconds until you're just a vessel for a demon. By the time I saw the horror, it was over, so I ended him right there. In hindsight, he was lucky I pulled the trigger instead of letting him rot in the dark. Hearing him tell that execution story without any emotion made my skin crawl with dread. Suddenly he yelled, pointing at the monitors where our strategy was falling to pieces. As both teams swept the second floor, the enemy sent 5 hitmen to shut her down. They ripped through the mess, just to make sure she didn't walk away with the prize. A huge mistake. They were chasing shadows while the real threat was standing right in front of them. The real carnage started with her, and the heavy, though the tank looked shaken by the stakes. The Syndicate is a top 5 elite family, and they never let a grudge slide. Going 2 against 5 of the elite guards looked like a death sentence to the old pro. As soon as the signal lit up, they moved, and the tank hit them like a semi-truck. A 3 killers dodged his reach and swarmed her like a pack of starving, rabid dogs. She didn't flinch, grabbing 2 metal spikes with a chillingly steady and calculated hand. Armed with the chief's custom tools, she tore their attack apart before they could even blink. Pure panic set in once they saw she was handling a 3rd knife with only her feet. While they froze in disbelief, she turned into a spinning whirlwind of polished chrome and steel. A wave of brutality broke out, leaving all 3 hired guns crumpled in the dirt like dolls. What is this freak? One choked out. backing away from her vicious and savage counter. Instantly, she spun and hurled a spike straight into the heavy's brawl with lethal aim. The rat trying to flank our tank didn't notice the steel until it pierced his leg. He let out a yell, but a shadow loomed as the final strike landed with surgical aim. The reinforcements finished it, leaving everyone in the booth speechless by the display of skill. Rather than taking all the credit, she set up an easy kill for her teammate. Before the first guy hit the ground, she had another blade out, scouting for the next mark. The metal hissed through the damp air, flying right for the center of the man's chest. She charged forward as she threw it, closing in while he was still fumbling to react. He tried to parry, but she moved with the fluid grace of a ghost out for blood. She snatched the blade in midair and used her momentum to slam him into the ground. She threw her weight into the strike, watching the terror take over his face as he broke. She was like a hurricane, her every blow slicing through his plate like a hot knife. I drive my blade home before the rook even catches his breath. Concrete shatters everywhere while my mark scrambles away from the flying sharp edges. He is hyperventilating, pure panic in his eyes as my hardware snaps into place. I ride that kinetic surge, splitting him open before he even blinks. A quick look around confirms it. The real bloodbath is only beginning. I am just a shadow steamrolling the next guy, tossing him skyward. No mercy, a flash of light leaves his chest full of holes. He is trashed. Joe watches the slaughter from the side, totally stunned. We were supposed to hold back, but I just blew the roof off. He yells at Ro, demanding the crew stay focused instead of grabbing loot. A complete devastation. Watching the screen, Seo Mun Yeop forgets how to breathe. My internal clock redlines, my metrics jumping by a whole point. Powering up mid-fight is crazy, especially for someone this new. Every takedown feels like lightning. This mess finally makes perfect sense. I figured Seen was losing it when he put me out front. The rush is insane, yet his advice keeps thumping in my head. He warned me that hunting glory while the team dies is suicide. Crew first, ego second. I pivot instantly, scanning the area for Chook. He is sinking. I abandon my target and sprint toward him, calling for backup. He ducks, letting me vault over him right into the fire. The attacker never blinked before my cold blade ended him. The squad swarms together, finishing the fight in a heartbeat. It is a masterclass in wrecking shop through simple, perfect execution. Observing the carnage online, Seo Mun allows a tiny smile to show. I saw that potential long ago, but she did not just win, she demolished. Over Shimyong hides in a bathroom stall, scrolling through the hate. The web is a meat grinder, trolls ripping his name apart. Ever since that massive mistake, he has been the internet's favorite punching bag. One win will not change them. They still think he's a spineless coward. Those idiots are clueless, but voices in the hall stop him cold. Some rivals are talking trash right outside. That was the last straw. He charges out for a fight, but those punks do not move. They lean into the insults, trying to trigger a violent meltdown. They are fishing for a lawsuit when a nearby door bangs open. Shimyong freezes as Seo Mun Yeop steps into the light. He heard every word, but he is too smart to bite. He sees the setup, and those two turn pale as he walks up. Here is the kicker. He grabs Shimyong and makes him apologize first. Dead air. No one gets why he is helping the opposition. Quit feeding them. They want you to blow up in public. You think they were just talking. This was a stage trap. He forces a sorry, then kills them with a fake, polite grin. He kills the tension before leading his partner away. Strategy 1. Do not let them win. He saw the bait and walked away. At the door, he gives them a look cold enough to freeze hell. I narrowly dodged a pink slip today when the brass decided my last massive screw-up wasn't quite a career ender. He gave me one final warning before melting back into the gloom without another word. Those deep gouges in the metal served as a grim reminder as hand prepped the team. Sony is on trial today, but I have to stay focused inside this bug-ridden slaughterhouse. Rumor has it a lab accident turned the local critters into something straight out of a horror flick. Way down deep, their queen is waiting to blast a telepathic soz if anyone drifts off. There is no easy way out. Every last monster has to be wiped clean. Han is barking orders, but I am tuned out, drowning in a bitter wave of sheer spite. That morning confrontation resolved nothing. My disgust for those corporate types is still eating me alive. Their arrogance makes me sick, but the timer just hit 0. It is go time. Staying composed is getting nearly impossible when my very soul is screaming for payback. The second round begins with Seo leading our 5-man squads straight into the meat grinder. Han is covering the back, shredding through bugs like we are walking through wet paper. Once we cleared the perimeter, the guys finally realized I had completely vanished from the grid. I slipped in the shadows to settle a score without anyone looking over my shoulder. I am desperate to break those rival punks while Han keeps blowing up my headset. I killed the sound and ignored him, imagining him throwing a fit back at headquarters. I am officially off the leash now, fully aware of the hell I will face when this is over. 10 minutes into my detour, I hit the zone, only to find the enemy waiting for me. My squad is nowhere in sight. Despite CS specific command to hold this ground, I desperately needed a shield. Without backup, I am just a sitting duck. The plan is falling apart, but I refuse to run, so I start blasting fire everywhere. I poured every ounce of heat into a final strike, but the bastards just stood there grinning. Their captain's sneering laugh stung more than any bullet could ever manage. I walked into a trap. A rain of fire descends from above, and I lose consciousness. Shame hits me like a ton of bricks. I've never felt this pathetic or amateur. I try to bail, but they hit me boxed in. and one is literally on my heels. To hell with it. If I'm going down, I'm taking as many as I can with me. I pull the trigger, but nothing happens. Panic sets in as I realize my core is still cooling. My primary blast only manages 5 shots before a 150-second reset. I am toast. I never screwed up this bad in training, but I failed and now I'm face down. The opposing team looms over me. Mocking the easy kill they finally managed to trap. Out of nowhere, the comms announce Sonia's first kill, and every single person freezes. Sonia materializes like a phantom, her blade ready to spill blood in an instant. And before I can even react, someone grabs my jacket and hauls me into the darkness. The enemy stands there baffled, wondering if they just walked into a sophisticated setup. Sunho pulls me aside, explaining the plan was to secure the sector ages ago. Apparently, someone gave everyone a heads up on exactly how I would break rank. He knew I was reckless, so the team just sat back and watched me fail. They even left a bug alive to keep the path open. I feel like a total idiot standing here. It finally clicks. Simon manipulated me perfectly, and I fell for the whole thing. Joe says reinforcement is coming and we need to move, but I'm still seeing red. I'm not waiting for a handout. I'm jumping back in the fight to settle this myself. You think you have me figured out? Simon, think that one trick is all I've got. I'll prove you wrong by unleashing a power far more frigid than any flame. I watch the snare spring, spectral link slash forward, locking the rookie dead in Sonia's sights. Xenia lunges, her blade becomes a chrome flash, skewering both marks with savage, easy grace. I smirk, Santa looks shell-shocked. The kid finally learned how to spill blood for the flag. The gears are grinding. Sue is normally a total show-off, but he followed the script. My talk finally sank in. With a quiet gesture, I flick through the data to monitor Sue's combat stats in real time. He is locked in, yet his biometrics are absolute redlining right this second. His strength will max out shortly, but his brain will never catch up to his muscles. Make no mistake, I am not running some non-profit humanitarian project over here. I am fattening him for market. When he reaches top value, I am swapping him for a veteran. The fight is chaotic. Sue creates the opening, then Zia strikes with cold, surgical efficiency. Second stage closes quickly. My ace is clearly the most dangerous predator out there. Sue glows with pride, desperate for a nod. He thinks he won. To me, he is just data. Forget Sonia, Min is the threat. His knack for finding the kill shot is pure brilliance. The rest of them, Jin and Yang, are managing to keep the perimeter secure for now. These new recruits are dominating. The organization is transforming into the juggernaut I planned. Down on the turf, the kid stares up with a gaze of twisted, pathetic gratitude. If not for me, he would still be decaying in some neon slum or a greasy internet kef. Playoffs begin. I query Santa about our rivals. When she says twin star, my chest tightens. Hike was a prisoner there. I had to scrap just to purchase his freedom from that pit. I got him for a steal, but how that prick tried to murder me still stings. I press Santa. She insists they are the main obstacle, even though our lineup is finally elite. It will be rough, but just being rough is not good enough. I am gearing up. I need a target to vent some of this bottled up rage. Santa shoots me a glance. She calls me spiteful, fine, but if I enter their history, post-victory, a shaking Jiho traps me, demanding to know where the Zadran bioagent is stashed. I slide the glass tube out as if I were grabbing a stick of 5-cent gum. Jiho goes white. I have carried it since dawn. One fumble, and this city is dead. I tell him to relax. A minor Armageddon might finally live in this boring place up. He quits arguing. He just pleads with me to keep that toxin locked away securely. The guild made contact. They are sending an agent and a fee I simply cannot refuse. I am doubtful. Without the mountain of cash, I would never talk to these paper pushers. To be fair, the Rift's volatility is not the thing that ruins my sleep. It is the architect. Their algorithms are far too flawless. It is genuinely haunting. This level of intricacy has zero historical precedent. Only a ghost could craft something this visceral. Amidst my thoughts of the doorbell chimes, Gio walks to the entrance, grumbling about midnight callers. He recoils at the gaunt's skeletal face. Pardon me, the man croaks. I am Petro Anella. I have arrived from the guild to take that Zadran specimen off your hands immediately.